There we go. Is that better? Do I hear myself now on Twitch? Do I hear myself now on Twitch? Yes. I think when I turned on my phantom power there, I think that kind of blows out the speakers there, so. I'll have to listen back to the recording and see. Hopefully nobody was watching at that point. Okay. All right. Punch a message out on Discord here. Live now on Twitch, believe it or not. All right. Okay, we are live, which is crazy. Crazy that we are actually up and running right now. I'll just dive right into it. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to awful, terrible JavaScript game development. I'm your host, Jared. I tried to think of some middle name, some nickname in air quotes, but I couldn't think of anything. So anyway, nickname aside, my hair's a little fluffy today. I took a shower earlier. It's already 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. 1:20 p.m. almost. So we're doing a Saturday stream. So it'll just be a couple hours probably. My wife's at work probably till 4 p.m. or so. So it gives us probably a good 3 or 4 hours. Whoa, Beck Kitty's already there. There she is. Good job. Thank you, Beck Kitty. We just went live. I'm doing my intro. Yeah, so Saturday stream. First Saturday stream in a long time. Been trying to do Thursday night streams. Didn't get around to it this past Thursday, but decided that Kitty's at work, so gave me a good chance to be able to get some streaming in. Yeah, today I was trying to think of exactly what I wanted to accomplish today, and we were working on logging last week. Let's do a little demo of the logging. So if we play the game, if we play the game here, are both of these guys? Oh, okay, we got to refresh this one. There we go. There we go. So if we play a match here, a multiplayer match, we're now, whoops. There we go. We're now logging all the mouse input on the server that we receive from the client. And then we dump it all into a CSV. And here's the CSV. Yeah, this has to be it because I deleted the last one. So I must have added the spaces in. Let me confirm that real quick here. So we actually write the CSV. Yeah, I did put spaces in. Okay, nice. All right, so I'm gonna quick while I'm right here. I'm gonna delete all of this because this was our old logging code. But basically, we've got a config.logging variable now. We put up in our master config file. So we have this.logging equals true. So I can come in here, change that true or false, and turn on or off whether or not we're actually creating this CSV file after every match. And basically, it gives us a bunch of stuff. Now, again, we're viewing, well, not again, I didn't say anything yet about this, but we're viewing a CSV just in plain text mode, which isn't super optimal. I don't have Excel on this computer. I don't really feel like getting Google Sheets and everything involved at this point. Not really necessary. So basically, we just want to look at this and verify everything's good. Eventually, I'll be kind of parsing through this in some actual spreadsheet software, probably Google Sheets. But for right now, we just wanted to make sure we're generating a good CSV file for us to use and parse later. So it's a little hard to look at. I mean, you can kind of tell we got the columns going here to some extent. But basically, we've got for column headers, we've got player 0 here, the player in the first column, which is player 1 is player 0, player 2 is player 1. Player numbers don't really mean anything aside from, just an identification. Client side, there's not really any player 1, player 2 thing. We're just doing that for, keeping track of what players are there. And we've got our mouse event type that we received from the client. So majority of those are going to be movements. So it says move for if it was a movement, and here we got a click. So we can tell when, we can differentiate between a movement or a click. And obviously different things happen depending on a movement and a click. And we've got target bubble ID in the next column. So obviously these are misaligned here, which is kind of annoying, but it's okay. Once we open that in spreadsheet software, then we will, obviously be able to format our columns all nicely and just have it looking all pretty and use some formulas and everything. And is my camera having trouble focusing? There we go. No, we lost it again. Come on. It's like fuzzy there. It's not. There, now it's focused a little bit. Yeah, maybe. All right. Anyway, so we've got the target bubble ID. So that target bubble ID is just the bubble you're supposed to pop while you're playing. And basically the target bubble IDs are just the first bubble is bubble 0, and it just goes on and up. So during basically just logging what target bubble, so obviously like the player's just moving the mouse, the target bubble ID is still 0. They move the mouse, it's still 0. So it's 0 until they pop the bubble, right? So here we got a click, and after that click event, now we can see the new target is 1. So the player popped bubble 0 at this point, and we've moved on to 1. So that's there for that purpose. We have the timestamp next, which is this line here, which is basically just the number of milliseconds since the match started that this event happened on the server, at least. So we had the first mouse movement 500 milliseconds in, and so on and so forth. So this number is always going up, and we should see it all go all the way up to about that 10-second mark there. I've got the match time set to 10 seconds for right now, just for quickly testing. So yeah, we can see it last event right up there at 9988. So just, what is that, 12 milliseconds shy of the time limit there. That seems about right. And then we've got mouse event delta time. So this is basically for always the first event here, this is going to be, these two are going to be the same, because basically this is taking this number minus 0. But otherwise, this number is going to be the time between this current mouse event, so this timestamp here, and the difference between this one and the previous timestamp, right? So for the very first mouse event, we're taking that time minus 0. So that's why we're ending up with the same exact number there. If in this next case here, we're taking 740, blah, 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 minus 517, and that gives us 222, or yeah, 222. Then next one, we take 756 minus 740, and that gives us 15. So the vast majority of the time, we should be seeing about 16-ish milliseconds, 16 to 17 milliseconds between every timestamp. And that would be after like continuous movement of the cursor. It's basically the client is kind of only sending mouse updates to the server every 1/60th of a second. So that's kind of the range we should be seeing. And we looked last week at there'll be times where basically like this last move, the last movement right before a click typically you'll see, you know, a very short time, because basically in between from that click message and this message, because basically these get sent individually from the client. So when you do have a click, you do kind of receive 2 mouse messages in that quick time span there, in that short time span, I should say. So next column is basically what are we at now? Position X. So the X position of the mouse cursor at that point in time, and the Y position of the mouse cursor. And obviously there can be negative numbers, because it's all relative to the play area, which is that black circle. So everything is, you know, this is positive X, positive Y. Y increases as we go down. Otherwise, Y is negative as you go up. So it's kind of like our origin points at the center of our black circle. So that's why we can have negatives. We're not sending pixel data. We're sending like a generic unit data. So this is not negative 1,352 pixels. This is negative 1,352 units, where 0x 0y units is dead center of our play area circle there. So basically, yeah, we've got the X and Y here. And then the move X, move Y are these next two. And basically that is the distance X that we've moved and the distance Y that we've moved. So again, that's not very interesting looking at the first one here, because basically it is the same. Because it's pretending that the very first movement is 0, 0. So what we end up with here is a little more typical looking. So we've moved 138 units along the x-axis between the second mouse input and the first mouse input, and we moved 191 units along the y-axis. And then the last column here we have, well, it's not actually the last column, but the last column in this case on the end here is the distance. So basically we do Pythagorean theorem with these two numbers. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This is a, this is b, and then that's kind of our right triangle difference there between between the previous mouse point and the current mouse point, and then we can get the hypotenuse there, and that's what this is. So that's the distance between this current mouse movement and the previous mouse movement. And then I didn't realize how long it was going to take to actually explain this, because I kind of wanted to dive into what I was doing, what I was planning on doing for today. But basically on the end here, we've got another little message for if a mistake was made. So that's what this final column is, mistake. So basically it logs the type of, if a mistake was made during that movement or click event, then it logs that there. So in this case, we moved the cursor out of bounds. So actually we can see here, that would definitely be out of bounds. Yeah. Basically, all of these ones are out of bounds from this point on, because if your x position is greater than 1,000, basically that the radius of that circle just comes right up to 1,000. So we're already outside of that circle, outside of our boundary circle there, by 113 units. So we can see cursor moved out of bounds, and then these subsequent next mouse movements are out of bounds as well. As long as either y or x are greater than 1,000, we'll be out of bounds, or less than negative 1,000. So at some point we come back in to the circle, and at some point, and then we actually start playing, and then there are there should be some other messages here where we pop like the wrong bubble. I know, yeah, here we go. Wrong bubble popped. So here's where we clicked, and we clicked on the wrong bubble. So we have the mistake of wrong bubble popped, and we can tell that our target bubble goes back to, or we were targeting 11. We were trying to pop 11, but when we made the mistake, now we have to go back to 10 and re-pop 10 over again. Then we can see another cursor moved out of bounds here. And since we already had made one mistake that at this point, we don't have to go back to, we don't go back to bubble 9. And yeah, there's a few other mistakes there. Wrong bubble popped. But basically, yeah, it's kind of annoying viewing this in the raw CSV format, but this will be pretty cool to look at in a spreadsheet and just kind of, you know, see all of the game data and things that happened. So, what are we doing? We got coffee and water again. It's just decaf this time. It's already 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, so. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did get a follow right at the end there, the last stream I noticed after we had gone offline. I heard the little Streamlabs chirp there. But NZAC underscore has followed. So thank you, NZAC, for that follow. I really appreciate it. So I didn't get a chance to give him a shout out on the last stream because we'd already gone offline. But so basically that's what we implemented. We implemented kind of this logging thing, and it seems like a lot of stuff to look at. Obviously, it's a lot of mouse movements and everything, and technically once we go up to, 30-second matches, we're going to be looking at, 1,800 lines per player, 1,800 records in our CSV here per player of mouse input data, because we're sending 60 updates a second. So that times 3 should be 1,800 if I calculate correctly there. So, yeah, I kind of wanted to look at actually some kind of low-hanging fruit today. Some stuff that I kind of marked as needing to be done in previous streams, previous times working, but I kind of pushed off working on and just logged them in Trello. So I do have a public Trello, actually. There is... Yeah, I do have a little command there for it. So if anyone's interested, you can actually go view this Trello right here. I don't keep it particularly exactly updated. There's some very far off future kinds of tasks here. There's some more pressing to-dos. This is the stuff I'd like to get taken care of before we go live with the multiplayer. And then this is the stuff we should be doing right now, and the stuff that's done, which probably needs to get cleaned up because this is quite a bit of old stuff in here and some more recent stuff. So the one thing I'd like to take a look at, 3 things from this list today. Well, 3 things, including this one. So this one I'd like to look at right away first is don't destruct a popped bubble until animation has completed. So this is one that isn't a super, this one isn't a super crazy thing. But basically the way we when we refactored the game to play, to kind of have this one bubble go back thing where you go back to the previous bubble only. We got rid of the old checkpoint system, which is what we had, which is what's live on populus.gg right now. Basically, there's a certain amount of bubbles that will come back if you make a mistake, unless you make it to the next checkpoint. So now I made it to a new checkpoint. Basically, if you don't see any bubbles up here, you're on a checkpoint. You don't see any little bubbles there. Otherwise, you make a mistake, those ones will come back. So, basically, now that we've removed that checkpoint system, so now worst case, only one bubble will come back if you make a mistake. And if you continue to make subsequent mistakes or consecutive mistakes after that, you won't. You have to pay the penalty the one time, and then that's it. So, because that's kind of the important part anyway. You make one mistake, that's kind of the well, that in and of itself is kind of the punishment as far as gameplay goes right there. So you have to go back and try to repop that last bubble. But if you continue to make subsequent mistakes, there's not really any penalty. So since we've added that, that kind of tweaked how things worked to a certain extent. And basically what we're ending up with right now is if basically the bubble animation, when you pop a bubble like that, it fades out. And that's cool. But what's happening now is if you pop a bubble and then pop another bubble immediately, the one bubble gets destructed right away. And what that means is basically that animation, instead of letting that animation play out, all the event listeners and everything for that bubble, which the animation requires, those all get pulled out. Those all they all stop listening. So basically the animation quits, everything and all of that. So you kind of have this instant like snap out. So if I pop this bubble and then this one really quick, you'll see this one not complete its animation. It's kind of hard to catch. That one was maybe a little easier. And this really isn't that big of an issue, but I'd like to kind of just at least look at it a little more and see if I can maybe clean it up a bit. Because again, it's not even something I notice anymore. It's not technically a bug. It's kind of a bug, but it's not something that would break gameplay or anything. Because basically what I'd like to have happen is have that bubble destruct once its animation completes. So in other words, let its animation finish. And then then let the bubble destruct. And there was some I haven't looked at the code for that. I mean, since I created this little Trello to do, don't destruct a pop bubble until animation is completed. So I know there's some sort of caveat in there that didn't make it a simple fix, and that's why I created the Trello to do. And yeah, it's not even that noticeable of a thing graphically right now, and obviously doesn't affect gameplay at all, other than, you might notice there's a little jarringness of that happening. But let's make this animation time a lot longer, for example, and then we then should be able to see, okay, so fade anim, so let's make this just like 1 second. Otherwise, it's normally 400 milliseconds. So if we play, we can see now that takes a whole second to fade out. But now, so I'll pop this green one and then pop this blue one right away. Basically, you saw the green one just disappeared immediately. So like I said, with the 1 second, that's a little more noticeable. With the 400 milliseconds time that's typically there, it's not so noticeable. In fact, I don't even think I've noticed it myself playing since. But if you look at, oh, actually, we don't have that. We don't have that data here at this point. But if I do tweak the animation and stuff in the future, I would like to, potentially we might have some different kind of animation or some sort of other effect happening. And basically this would, anything we do like that would break the animation going forward. So I'd like to look at the code where we actually call that destruct of the bubble. And yeah, from what I can remember, there's not a, it's not trivial to just pass a callback or something to actually destruct the bubble once it's gone. So let's see here. Okay, so we've got a pop bubble function in our match. So we're in our match code on the client. And this is something, that the server doesn't have any sort of control over. This is just purely a graphical thing. And again, the thing is, so I have basically for all my entities in the game, which is basically probably not a great name for it, but for every entity type, which a bubble would be an entity, basically every entity can have some event listeners in our global event listener object. Sorry, our global event emitter object. So when a bubble gets popped, actually we just call a method on the bubble. Here's the method pop. So we call a method on this bubble pop. And if we look at a bubble here, I'll move this up right here. So if we look at, actually let's split this. Okay. So now I've got my match code here. So we call bubble.pop, and for the pop, we just set some state. Popped is true. Pop time, which is really just the time that the bubble is popped. And I think that's just for like logging kind of stuff. And then we basically kick in the fade animation, and we clear out, we reset our expand animation, which is when the bubble comes in, fades in from nothing. So we kind of reset that just in case, because once you pop a bubble, it has the potential to come back, right? Because according to the way the gameplay works right now, the game works, we play, we pop a bubble. If I make a mistake, that red bubble's coming back. So we don't destruct that bubble until we pop the bubble after the red one, which would be this one. Which is why we only have that issue. Basically, we only have that issue once we pop a bubble and then the next bubble really quickly after. Because then there's no chance of that single bubble coming back. So we're kind of... There's no chance for that bubble to come back, so we call the destruct method on that bubble, which pulls its event listeners out. And basically... it's the animations, so these fade animations and everything, those are also entities. Are they entities? Yeah, a timer, an entity, or an animation is a timer, which is an entity. So those run their course, or the timer's ticking down and listening to every frame, checking its time, seeing if it's completed, whatnot. And the animation changes some values, does some interpolation based upon the amount of time that's passed. And then when so basically when you call destruct, all those event listeners kind of cascade down. So the bubble gets called destruct on it. And then basically its animations that are running get called destruct. So they just stop listening to those events. So they stop updating values, and the bubble itself just stops drawing to the screen. So all that stuff just gets pulled out. And then, so then that would cause the graphical effect of that bubble just disappearing right off screen instantly, which is what we don't want. We don't want that. Now, I did, and if you look, actually, on the live Populus site right now, populus.gg, we don't have this problem. So if, for example, let's see here, we pop this, and then that's going to cause, let's see here. So if I do this, yeah, and I can't remember exactly why this one we were able to get away with this, and now we currently have some sort of limitation with this. But I know with the current live site, basically, and I'd have to actually go back and look at a previous commit of the code, or switch back to the master branch. But basically, there's like a callback that I could pass at that point in time, the way it worked. So I could, when that animation would run, we pass a callback to then kill the bubble. Actually, I think I know why we can't really do that now. I think the problem is that we don't pass a callback, because if the animation, basically, we don't want to destruct the bubble and have to restruct it. We don't want to, do we? Man, this is kind of hard to think of. Well, okay, so I think this is the reason why currently, I'm going to switch back to 30-second timer because this is really annoying that the match keeps ending. In fact, I don't even want, in fact, I'm going to make it like 300 seconds again. Where is our config file? Here it is. Match found time length, match something down here. Client, nope, nope, yes, no, nope, 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 nope. Where are we at? Match found, man, nope, that's for the match found. Match time length, here we go. We got it set to 10 seconds or AKA 10,000 milliseconds. So we're going to make this, we're going to make it 300 seconds. Okay, so now, yeah, now we got our timer just barely inching down there. Great, fantastic. It's exactly what I wanted. Whoa. Yeah, so I am definitely noticing this thing. And again, this isn't even that big of an issue, but if we, it's something we might as well just kind of fix right now, because if we do tweak animations and stuff later and we have a much more longer played out animation or something, this could still be a problem. So the thing, okay, so what I was explaining before is I think the reason why we don't pass some sort of callback is because we can't, there's the possibility, we don't want to destruct this. We don't want the pink one to be destructed now because we just bring it back right away here. Basically, the pink one is just kind of invisible right now, or its radius is 0 or something like that, where it's not visible currently. And basically, it's when the animation fades out here, the bubble itself doesn't get destructed. We keep it because it could come back in a second, right? So that might be the reason. I think that's kind of our limitation as to why, you know, so as soon as I pop this one, then that pink one, we don't need it. There's no chance of that pink one ever having to come back, so we destruct it. We call destruct on it. But that's, I think, kind of that dilemma there is like, if we pass a callback and that animation completes, we don't want it to destruct yet because it's still got the potential to come back. But once we pop this one, then we could set that bubble needs to be destructed. So I kind of have a thought of how I might be able to actually solve this. Yeah, because we've got unpop. So unpop is the method you call if the bubble has to come back, basically. And when we can for sure, you know, and then it basically just sets the Booleans here, or some Boolean state values here, and then basically starts redrawing the bubble and everything, resets animations, blah, 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 blah. And that is kind of what we end up with. Yes, so we call pop, and then at some point in our match, so this is our match code here. So this is like the current match, right? The code that kind of wraps up that whole match. And then this is the individual bubble code here. So each bubble on screen, you know, obviously this is the class for that. So the one thing I want to find where I actually call unpop. On a bubble, unpop. Okay, so we do that on cursor drag stopped. Basically this, now this name is kind of not really applicable anymore. I just never actually renamed this name of the event. So this is our event listener for when a cursor drag stopped is called, which basically equates to when the player makes a mistake. So that's kind of what this event gets fired now. The name was kind of pulled over from the way the game worked before. But now we have cursor drag stopped, meaning basically a mistake. So the bubbles, yeah, so at this point, then we call bubbles, blah, 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 dot unpop. And target bubble ID, blah, 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 blah. Okay. So I'm trying to think now. We call unpop on. Okay. So we've got a Boolean here for mistake already made. So that's what kind of prevents us. So that's a Boolean at the match level that just kind of keeps track of, because again, like if I make a mistake, red's coming back, right? But if I keep making mistakes, no bubbles, it doesn't just keep going back and forcing me to repop already popped bubbles. So yeah, so basically that's what this mistake already made Boolean is doing. So like if a mistake has not already been made, then we set mistake already made to true. So basically the only way that mistake already made is going to be set back to false is if we have a valid pop of a bubble next. Then that gets set back to false. So basically we've got those two things kind of going back and forth as far as mistake already made. So then we can ensure this code is not going to run at all if a mistake's already been made. So in bubble's not going to get unpopped. Target bubble ID is not going to get decremented, everything. Again, whatever. We're not just going to keep going back and having to pop previous bubbles in the past, right? So that allows us, then this Boolean here is what allows us to really destruct any previous bubbles that we have no chance of going back to, basically. That might have been a weird way to say that, but anyway. So. Yeah, we got like a little mistake counter here for the stats that ticks up on the client side. Basically, we've already been going for 40 minutes. Woo! Wow. Okay. That's crazy. So, wonder how many times I've said so since I've started streaming. We've been streaming like 200 something hours now. Coming up on 250 hours, I believe. Wonder how many times I've said so in those 200 hours. Probably a lot. So, it's just an instinct to say so. Okay. Trying to think of where to look at this next. Well, okay, so cursor drag stopped. That's where we're calling unpop. We're bringing back a bubble. But where are we actually calling destruct on a bubble? That's kind of what I really want to look at. So we should be calling that here. Yes, this is where we're really destructing that bubble. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, actually. We're going to throw a Jorana BRB in there. BRB. There we go. All right, notepad. Be right back. Oh. There we go. All right, be back. 1 sec. I'm going to grab some more coffee, too. Don't go anywhere unless you want to. That's okay. All right, we are back. Okay, so we found the spot here where we're actually destructing the previous bubble. So, yeah, we got this shared bubble mode thing. Whatever. We destruct the previous bubble. We get the previous bubble ID, which would be target bubble ID -1. Because at this point we have not incremented our target bubble ID. So this is, technically, this is the bubble we popped right now. So target bubble ID is, again, just an integer increment thing. So the first target bubble ID when you start the game is always 0. So that's the bubble we're trying to pop, bubble 0 right off the bat. And then basically it just increments every time we pop a bubble. So we have our new target bubble ID now. So basically we grab the previous bubble ID whenever we pop a bubble. And then basically if this little check here, if we're greater than 0, greater than or equal to 0, then we can destruct that. Because basically if this pre-bubble ID would be -1, this would come out to be -1 on the very first bubble pop. So you make the very first bubble pop, then this would be target bubble ID, which would be 0 -1, be -1. So -1 is, and obviously there's no -1 bubble. The very first bubble is 0, and we're incrementing up from there. So, so we want to destruct that previous bubble, basically, right? Because that gives us that little gap of, now the target bubble ID is going to be that bubble that could come back, right? Because we're going to the next, this is the bubble we just popped. And there's already a check. So there's already this pop bubble method. This gets called from a couple places. I think kind of because we're doing this stupid 2 game modes at once here, which is kind of annoying. I think. Where else does pop bubble get called? Oh, no, never mind. Actually, this is kind of good to have. So basically, no, actually that is kind of stupid. Whatever. It's because we got because we have 2 game modes, I kind of need this pop bubble. So when we call pop bubble, we know we popped the valid bubble at this point. So this is the bubble we just popped, basically. Or I should say, sorry, the checks have already been made to say, yes, this is the right bubble that was popped. So those checks happen, or either in our shared bubble mode, either the server is the authoritative one saying, yeah, like the other player popped the bubble. The shared bubble mode is where both players are trying to pop the same bubble on screen at once. So in this case, the server's kind of the one saying, yeah, that bubble is already popped. So basically by the time we get to pop this pop bubble method, we know that that is the bubble that was supposed to be popped. So otherwise, when we play a normal practice mode or whatever, we are calling pop bubble through here, through the cursor down event. So then we're parsing if the cursor was over a bubble, and if it was the right bubble, then we know if the bubble that we just checked, if we were inside of or not with the cursor when the mouse was clicked, then we know that's the right bubble. If it was the target bubble ID, if that, whatever, blah, 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 then we know at this point, okay, the bubble is correct. Codico, what's going on, Codico? Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, we're doing a little Saturday stream here. Good to see you too. Oh, thanks. Yeah, doing a little Saturday. Well, for me, afternoon. Obviously, for you, it's probably 8, 10 p.m., 12 a.m. or something. Been off for some days, I feel like. Yes. Well, okay, so the only thing that's on my schedule are Mondays and Tuesdays, my stream schedule. So we did this past Monday and Tuesday, and I was I've been trying to do like a Thursday night stream. I didn't actually end up getting a Thursday night stream this past Thursday night. So I had good opportunity to stream today. So I at least got something else in addition to the Monday and Tuesday. Fair enough. I do feel like you've been on more than that, so I got acclimated. Yeah, I got you. And I had done, I did a couple Thursday night streams in a row. But yeah, I expect you on every day. I wish I was able to do that. That would be nice. Actually, I probably wouldn't want to stream. Like, let's just say if I was working on this full time, if I was able to work on a game full time, not necessarily this game, but any game, if I was able to do that, I probably wouldn't stream every day. I would probably stream 3 days a week, I think. Because, I don't know, streaming is fun, but it kind of takes a little bit out of you, I think. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if we get to a point like that. But it's cool, man. Hope all is well. Yes, thanks, Kodako. Yeah, all is going pretty well here. I'm taking care of some issues, some things that needed to be fixed from that I took note of in the past. Of course, coding does not like context switching. Yeah, exactly. Streaming requires a lot of context switching. Yeah, it's it's very the one thing I do like about streaming and writing and programming is it really helps keep me focused, just from like a general getting things done mindset. Just because it always keeps me working on doing whatever, and for the most part, want to become famous. Absolutely. It's about time. About time we got one of those. There we go. Yeah, I'd say for the most part, I'm able to get quite a bit done streaming. But yeah, definitely. I mean, there's times where, well, and I don't know. I mean, like, if and interacting with the community and everything, because obviously that's derailing from the point of if you're in the middle of something there and then you're kind of, if you're constantly checking the chat or whatever, or if you're sometimes you kind of get going on a conversation or whatever with the chat. But at the same time, that's you want that too, because I mean, if you want to stream and be able to do stuff with the stream, you kind of want to build a community, for lack of a better word there, then you need to interact with people too. So that's kind of part of the job of it too, I think. I feel like if you're streaming in some way, you're trying to entertain, but you can still get some work done in the meanwhile. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, yeah, you're definitely not engaged, like, kind of hardcore in what's going on exactly, but at the same time, kind of like talking out loud is just like that's a really helpful skill helpful tool for me into like thinking and really like putting what I'm trying to do, like kind of making that more concrete. And obviously with programming, sometimes you just can't do that either. Because I'll have that where I had that a little bit before where I was like, well, if like my brain is like not giving my mouth the time, or like the part of my brain that makes the words come out, like it's not very multi-threaded, for lack of a better word. But for a lot of things that are a little more like point A to point B in terms of programming wise, like I want to do this thing and I can kind of just write some code and then get there. That stuff's easy to like talk through and kind of explain. So as much as I'm like talking and explaining things when I stream, I'm kind of like helping myself remember or like think through, as it goes, as I go through it. So anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on that. Yeah, the good part of streaming and programming is it's quite easy to take small little narrative stories about your feature development, good setup, problem resolution. Yeah, exactly. It's a good way to put it. I like that. Narrative, small little narrative stories about your feature development. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I like it when, I mean, there's, and it's hard for me to know exactly how well I am, how good I'm doing at it. But for a lot of programming streams, you kind of can tune in and like, you have no idea what the person's doing, right? Like you kind of understand the words they're saying, but it's like, I don't know. You sometimes don't know what they're working on, what they're directly, because you don't know the program, you don't know what they're looking at, right? You can never really follow their code for sure. Yeah, exactly. And like, you just don't know exactly what they're trying to accomplish. But if they can like present it in a way where they're like saying, well, so here's what I've got, and here's where I'm trying to get to. So I'm trying to do this thing, and you really don't. You can kind of follow, like you said, like the narrative of it, which is cool. I can hardly follow my own code. Yeah, I got you on that. I feel you there. Yeah, because now I'm looking at some old issue from a while ago that I couldn't be bothered with it at the time. And I'm just trying to go back and look at the code again and refamiliarize myself to see why it's even an issue in the first place. Or at least why it wasn't a trivial issue to fix in the past. Because that's why I skipped it. That's why I made a little Trello thing about this. Don't destruct a popped bubble until animation is completed. And I knew what all that was all about. In fact, that bug had been in my head. It's not really a bug. It's just kind of a weird thing. Whoops. Where basically like the animation, that fade out animation will just snap out instantly if we pop the next bubble. So like if I pop this bubble and then pop this one really fast, that purple one just snapped out like instantly rather than completing its animation. Because basically I said I destroyed that bubble as soon as this one was popped. And I'd rather kind of delay that, like have a callback that fires and then destroys the bubble once the animation actually finishes. And the reason why I believe the reason why I thought that was non-trivial before is because I don't want to destroy the bubble. So like, for example, let's take this orange bubble here, for instance. The animation completes, right? And I don't destroy it, because if I make a mistake, it comes back. But if I pop this bubble now, the orange one can never come back. So at that point, then I destroy it, get rid of it, whatever. Technically don't get rid of it, but I pull out all the event listeners so it's no longer listening to events, and there's no going back and setting that up. So basically we click there, it goes, fades out. Then obviously it can come back, right? So it animates back. If we pop this bubble, now that orange one is gone for good, right? It's not coming back, but now this green one can come back. So the reason why I don't pass a callback when that fades out is for that exact reason of I might be able to, so there is like a middle state. Yeah, exactly. So like when it fades out, the bubble's still like there. It's ready to come back if it needs to. And then like basically, yeah, it has a Boolean that's called popped. And then, so here's the bubble code, the bubble class object code here. So it's got a Boolean called popped. And basically if that's true, then when we check to see if there's like a collision, yeah, so here's check traversal method on the bubble. So basically we return right away from that method if it's already been popped. So in other words, we just skip. We don't even try. So basically that you just have that one bubble in that popped state that you're waiting, so that way like there's no, like I pop green, and that way when I move my mouse over it, it's detecting the method that's firing to check the traversal of the cursor over the bubble is running, but then it's just returning void right away, and not actually doing like a check of whatever. So yeah, so there's like that little middle state there in between when it's been popped, and it's very possible that when you pop it and then you go to this one and you pop it, now that green one's destroyed, it got destructed, but it's really only an issue if we go here, we destruct the bubble before its animation has been gone. Half gone, yeah, pretty much half gone. I mean, technically, it's still fully there, and like it's kind of that important part. When I destruct something, I'm removing its event listeners, so it's not just sitting there listening for all the mouse movement events and everything and trying to do all of that. I get it. So the problem is if you're too fast. Yes, basically. Which, it's not really a graphical issue. So I'll pull up this. Whoops. Actually, no. If we go back to the bubble, I can make the animation, the fade animation, like a lot longer. Let's do 2 seconds. I demonstrated this with a second before, but let's make it like way more clear. So basically, if you pop, now that fade out animation is 2 seconds long. So at this point, you go here, that's fine. But then if I go back, the red comes back. But basically, if I pop yellow before that animation's completed, the animation will just, the bubble will just completely disappear instantly. So like if we go here and then here, it just zipped out all the way there, which is not good. I mean, at this point, again, it's not really something you even notice at this point in time, but I might change the animation and stuff later, so that's why I kind of want to just at least look at this issue. Doesn't look so bad, but I feel you. Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about it, because it was even hard for me to like it was even hard for me when I was looking for it to see that it was a thing, to see that pop out. So it's kind of a little bit of a, it kind of wasn't that noticeable on the 2-second animation. Yes, that's also kind of a possibility. But this is why I'm hoping it's somewhat a quick issue to fix now that I actually kind of think about it. And here I've already been going an hour and really haven't made too much progress on it, but that's okay. That's how it goes. Kappa, yeah, exactly. Yes, so I'm kind of thinking what we could, okay, so let's look at actually the, so if we pop a bubble, so you've got pop bubble method, this is on our match object, so this is like the manager of the full game going on, right? Keeping track of what bubbles are supposed to pop next, blah, 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 blah. Because the bubbles themselves don't know that. They don't care. So, yes. So if we pop a bubble, we know that this is the bubble. We've already by the time we run this function, we've already figured out that this is a valid pop and everything. So we call the pop method on that bubble. So that triggers up the animation to start the fade out. Then we go in to destruct the previous bubble. So that is the bubble, the target bubble ID -1. So we haven't incremented our target bubble ID to the next bubble yet. So we do target bubble ID -1, and then if we're not 0, blah, 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 we destruct the bubble there. So this is where we're calling destruct on the bubble. So at that point, we know. So basically, we're calling destruct potentially before that animation is completed, is what's going on. We're getting to this point in the code before this .bubbles pre-bubble ID .destruct has actually run. So what I'm thinking is that, oh yeah, this is why it's tricky. This is why it's tricky. So we need like maybe, yeah, this is why this is tricky. You know what? I'm kind of, this is why it's not trivial. or at least I'm an idiot, so not trivial for me, but so the problem is we know at this point in time. So I guess what we could say is that if I had a more robust animation object, like animation class, perhaps we could have like a state variable on that we know, like, that it's running. Like, we know that it's in the middle. Because, like, the object will always be something, so we can't just, like, check if the object is there. We can't really look. I mean, there is kind of a wonky kind of check we could do, kind of a hacky check, where we could say, like, well, if the intermediate value, actually, no, wait a minute. I don't know if we can. Oh, yeah, we'd have to, like, check the internal, like, timer part of the animation and, like, see if that's not, if that's less. Well, I guess actually if that's less than, yeah, if it's less than the duration of the timer and the timer's not paused, technically then that way we could tell that it's running, and then somehow then we could probably set the callback for when the timer expires. So we could, like, do that check. Basically, we could have, like, a little if to check that. Then we could call destruct. Actually, that's maybe not that bad of a thing. So let's maybe try this. Let's do, oops. Oh, let's change this back to 2000 here. And then let's do, oh, whoa. There we go. So maybe we could do if animation's not complete. Animation's not complete. I'm just typing pseudocode here. Else, so if animations, or we should say animation's running. Let's just, here we can do some actual valid JavaScript pseudocode. If animation running, then we do this dot bubbles prev bubble id dot fade anim, so the fade animation dot set on, see, if retro MMO was here, you'd say use TypeScript, Jerry, because then you would know what that method name is. Timer, okay, timer, we have set on elapsed, there we go, so we can pass in a callback whenever we want. So we can, yeah, right, if on elapsed, let's hang on, I got some funky stuff in here. So we pass in a new callback function to set on elapsed, so that when the timer elapses, we can run this callback. This dot on elapsed equals if it's not supposed to repeat. Oh, then it calls the new on elapsed. Otherwise, if it's supposed to repeat, then we do this thing, call that function, and then reset the animation. Okay. Basically, if we set it, bumping the mics. All right. Basically, we have a set on elapsed method on the timer, which in animation is a timer, extends timer. What's happening here is you pass a new callback, basically. On elapsed is just when the timer expires. That's a kind of a stupid name. But you pass your new callback function. And if your timer's supposed to repeat on elapsed, see, this is the problem why I named this, picked this stupid name. Elapsed This is supposed to be on elapsed with a D, but I didn't do that. So there's like, sometimes you use the word elapsed. Sometimes you use the word elapsed. Okay, so if the timer's not repeating, then you're just going to fire this function right away when on elapsed is called. But otherwise, if the timer's supposed to be repeating, and I'm doing this awful ternary operator thing here, because I thought I could save some lines, if the timer is repeating, then basically we wrap a new little anonymous function here where then we call our onElapse. So this dot onElapse is our function. So if the timer doesn't repeat, this new callback will be this. If the timer does repeat, then we do a new anonymous function that will be this dot onElapse. We call this function, because of JavaScript closures and magic, we call this inside of this new function, this new callback, new anonymous callback. And then we reset the animation so that it will re-loop itself over and over again. Am a fish bro. Hi there. When I'm tired of writing code, I come here and watch others coding. Awesome. Awesome. I have a strange question. How do you prepare the list of to-dos beforehand? That is a good question, Am a fish bro. Well, welcome back, Am a fish bro. Good to see you. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. So the to-dos, like the to-dos, the things I'm going to work on for the stream, you mean, is what you are specifically asking? Currently what I did, if that's what you're asking, I'm going to assume that's what you were asking. I took maybe like 15 minutes before I started streaming, and I kind of thought about what I wanted to work on. Because today's a Saturday. I only going to stream for maybe 3 hours. We've already been going for an hour, so maybe another 2 hours. I basically just looked. I have a Trello. Actually, it's live. You can or it's public. Sorry. I'll pull it up here. So the Trello's not. I don't have everything in there. I've got a lot of to-dos in my code, like commented to-dos, and I use the to-do tree extension in Visual Studio Code. That just if you just type comment and then a to-do. Which you probably see some in here. Yeah, here's a couple in my timer class here. So you type your comment and then type to do, all uppercase. Actually, it might work with lowercase. I don't know. And then that'll show up down here because it just goes through all your code and does that. And it seems to be slow sometimes and makes your machine run fast, run hard and hot and everything. So do with that what you will. But so basically, there's a little bit of asynchronousness between my Trello and this. But what I did today was I wanted to kind of just tackle some smaller tasks that I've been kind of pushing off for a while, kind of when I do my bigger streams on Mondays and Tuesdays. And then basically, I just picked a couple of things that I thought I wanted to work on for right now. And then that need to be done to go multiplayer, go live with my multiplayer. Code to code. I try to prepare a short to-do list. The last thing I do before I stop coding, because that's when everything is the freshest. Yeah, that's Code to Code's idea. There is probably the best thing. I definitely should be doing that. If I get cold right into a project, I get not like this. Nice. Yeah, so that's something I could be better at doing for sure. Kind of managing tasks and to-dos and everything in general. Because I'm definitely appending some technical debt as I go. It's very cool that you organize everything like that. Like the way Codico does. Or the way I'm doing it with Trello and everything. I definitely could be doing a better job of organizing all that stuff, organizing the tasks and everything. I mean, I have like Trello is even more organized. Yeah, it's just that I don't always update Trello the best way I should. Because sometimes I just keep garbage lists in the code somewhere. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of whatever works. I mean, Trello, gotcha. I mean, it's whatever works, I guess. Like, since this is a relatively simple game, like, there's just not a million things. And for the most part, I can keep it in my head, like, what I need to do. And there's also, because sometimes I think of a task that needs to be done, but I don't always document it right away. But I know I would kind of rethink of it again at some point. Some of these ones are things like I write down on a piece of paper real quick because I know I need to work on it. The thing I'm working on right now, don't destruct a pop bubble until animation is completed. I'm pretty sure that's something while I was going, I wrote it down on a piece of paper real quick. And then I just, at the end of the stream or whatever, then I created the Trello card for it. But yeah, Trello's nice, to like categorize stuff. I mean, I don't really need, that's more of like a team kind of thing. Like, I don't really need to categorize my own stuff because I'm the only person working on it. But, like I don't need to really put gameplay label on there. I kind of did that just to be a little nicer. Networking is the orange ones, it's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, and actually, I my code is on my remote repository for my code is on Bitbucket, which Atlassian, company that owns Bitbucket, owns Trello now. So like, there's integration or whatever on there. I haven't messed around with that really at all. Like, I don't need anything that fancy. Like, literally, I'd be fine with just a piece of paper with my tasks written down on it, and I cross them off with a pencil, kind of thing. Yeah. Well, here's an example of stuff that I get. Well, like, I have add multiplayer as like, that was one of my cards. And I just moved that out of doing because I was like, that's this right before I started streaming. Because I was like, that's kind of dumb to have this, because like add multiplayer is kind of like, that was a thing at one time, but it's like now multiplayer is there, but there's still like a bunch of, this knocking out this one card. This one card should now be kind of split into a bunch of little ones. So that kind of stuff, I don't know, kind of makes me mad. Like there's actually optimized client server data transmission, but for client input to send to server. That's all like subtasks of this that have now been like, this should have got split and like killed a long time ago. And now there's other fix issues where player queues mash and closes WebSockets, close the WebSocket connection, add basic cheat detection. Like some of this add basic cheat detection could probably be split into like 4 different ones. I couldn't even think of all the things that I wanted to do for this. I'd probably create like a little checklist inside of this for the cheat detection. But I didn't even want to like come up with concrete things to put in this yet, because it's kind of like I don't really know, and I might not even have that much of a cheat detection thing in the first version of the multiplayer, because I could probably go down a ridiculous rabbit trail of cheat detection that I don't really need to do, like, and again, like I'd be fine once we go live to have some people, some of the community here, try to screw around and break some things kind of in a hacky way and see what happens. But I'd like to have like some basic kinds of cheat detection kind of out of the way. But it's kind of like I created the task, but really this is kind of there isn't really like a basic cheat detection task. Like, check, I've added cheat detection. It's kind of like probably going to be like 4 different little things that obviously all together make up cheat detection. So yeah, I might end up just adding like a checklist in here. But some things might get whacked some right away. Some things might not get, I don't know. So anyway, task management stuff is kind of annoying, I think. I really don't like it. Yes. So my goal today was to potentially, I don't know if we're going to, I would like to get rid of this task here. So the Trello's divided into the columns here. So like I have future to-dos, so stuff that I'm going to think about way later, like adding sound. And there's this one issue that really bothered me, but it's really not that big of a deal. I think it's unreal to realize anti-cheat on JS, but of course you may try. Yeah, and I mean, it's not so much like... it's not so much real anti-cheat. It's just going to be some kinds of basic things I can do to try to prevent people from kind of like doing a bunch of things over and over again. Like, yeah, if that makes sense. Let's see. Yeah, so like my column here is like the very future to do things that these probably won't get added for a while. Or some of these will probably get scrapped. Certain things of these might get all scrapped altogether. And here's my like more pressing to-dos. Like I need to actually take care of these before we go live with multiplayer, or, you know, to some degree. And then here's what I'm working on right now. And then here's obviously the done stuff. That's for if you're not familiar with Trello from other things. But like all of these to-dos that I've added here, these are all things that really aren't maybe that big of a deal. But these do not have, for the most part, these do not have tasks in Trello at all. But anyway, yeah. So yes, we were looking at our timer, and the thing that I was. So I have this method in my timer object. So I've got this generic kind of timer class in my code, which is also an entity. Basically means that if it's an entity, it listens to gameplay events, game engine events. So we've got a timer class, and we've got an animation class that extends the timer class. So a timer is an entity, and animation is a timer, which is an entity. An entity is like the base, is a base class. There's no there's nothing lower than the entity. Doesn't extend from anything. It's the root. It's a root class, let's say. So so we're looking at our set on elapsed method on the timer. So what that lets us do is basically pass a callback that will fire when the timer ends. So like initially you could pass one in the constructor. So a function that will run on elapsed. So you could run that on the, pass that in the constructor, but you could also pass it, you know, at some other point in time after you've constructed the object, after you've constructed the timer object or animation object, whatever. So you can call set on elapsed on your timer object and pass the new on elapsed meth function, which basically sets this dot on elapsed, which is the function property there, and it adds that new function if the timer is not supposed to repeat, but otherwise if it's not supposed to repeat. Or if it's not supposed to repeat, then it just sets this directly to the on elapsed. But otherwise, if it's supposed to repeat, then it creates a new little function here that will be the actual on elapsed function, which from within this function, it will call your new on elapsed function that you passed, and then it will also reset the timer. So calling reset will reset the timer over from the top, so it'll start timing again, right? And like I use that, for example, in the little animation here, the little red. Oh no, actually no, we don't. We don't use that. Do we? Do we? Do we? No, I think we came up with just a fancy little sine wave equation for that red, for the red flashing. And we just dialed in like a real nice little sine wave thing for that. Yeah, I think that's what we did in that case. Oh, I remember what we do. The repeat. A good example of the repeat is in the tutorial, where that arrow will just sine wave forever there, fade in and out. So that's where we're using the repeat. Because basically we calculate one period of the sine wave, and that's the animation equation that gets run through every time, and then we're interpolating along that. So the alpha value of our arrow is basically getting interpolated along that sine wave, and then basically it repeats. So we have one period of the sine wave that's the duration of the animation, and then it just resets itself over from the top, if that makes sense. So you got sine wave. I'm doing all this weird stuff with my hand. So you got the sine wave that runs, and then it repeats itself every time, but it does it seamlessly. Obviously, like my hand is moving to go back to the beginning of the timer, but or it'd be this way if you were watching. No, am I doing it right? I don't know how to do things backwards in the camera. So anyway, that's how that works. So then we get this infinite animation, infinite thing animating, whatever. So anyway, sorry, my phone's going off here. I think Big Kitty is texting me. Hang on a sec. There we go. All right. So let me turn my ringer down, my jingler here down. All right. So anyway, we looked at this set on elapsed method, and we're gonna set this if the timer's running. Actually, all right, I gotta use the bathroom. I'm doing a wee dance here. Throwing the Durana BRB toilet there in the chat. We'll be right back. Codeco's got me covered there too. Dropping a few. All right. We'll be right back. 2 seconds. Maybe 3. Maybe 120 plus. We'll be right back. All right, we are back. Okay. Hang on, actually, I gotta look here. Okay, so now with the match, okay, so we did kind of this little pseudocode thing here, right? So this isn't actually a thing, but right now, basically what we were doing before was we were just calling pre-bubbles.destruct immediately if we inside of this, right? So this was basically right here getting run immediately. So basically, if we need to destruct a bubble, we destruct it right here, bang, right away. But we kind of want to have like a little check, like if the animation is running, and this variable isn't anything, I just made it up kind of pseudocode wise. Like, so if the animation of that bubble is running, then we need to like wait to destruct it until after the timer runs out. Because the thing is, if it's possible that the animation already completed, basically. It's possible that the animation already completed, and if it already completed, then we want to destruct it immediately. And if we set a callback, then it will never destruct, basically. If we like pass a callback in, well, the timer's done and it's not going to repeat. So we would basically, in this case, never destruct the thing, the bubble. So we really need to know that the animation, if the animation is running or not. And I wasn't, and then if it is, we go into that fade animation, we set on elapse, and basically we can just pass a function here, where we'll do basically, then we'll destruct the bubble, right? So it's kind of like basically, yeah, this same line. Like, so basically if the animation's running, then we're like delaying the destruction of the bubble until the animation's complete, right? That's kind of the basic idea. But really it's a matter of how can we tell if the animation is running or not? And I'm kind of thinking, like, so again, this is a fake variable that I just made up. So the way, so like a timer, I guess we're not so concerned about an animation as we are about a timer, because really we're not doing anything fancy. Basically, an animation just adds like a little extra layer in the timer object, a convenience layer to do the interpolation for you. Well, okay, no, not even that. To do, basically the interpolation is happening. Oh no, never mind. It is a little, an animation object is basically just a little convenience wrapper over a timer to do a little, in the interpolation for you through whatever equation you're using, whatever. So there's like an equation function that you pass to an animation when you construct it, and then that animation equation gets run every tick of every frame, and then you basically do this little check of, you know, seeing where that value is supposed to be, blah, 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 blah. But it basically uses all of the internals of the timer for basically everything else. So the one thing I don't have is like these nice state variables that are kind of, well, we kind of have some state variables. We have a paused property. So we're paused, true or false, just a Boolean, right? By default, we're false. And then basically you could just have some sort of function that runs, pauses the animation, and then, or the timer, and then on every tick that's happening, basically if we're not paused, we're running. Otherwise, then we keep running, whatever. Otherwise, if we're paused, we would just do nothing, right, on that tick. So we can check if we're paused or not, but the thing is, oh, wait a minute. I think I changed something. Does it automatically pause when it ends, when it expires? Where's if on elapsed? On elapsed. Oh, yes. Okay. Check this out. Okay, so if our timer elapses, so we're doing like this little internal check in the timer, every tick, every frame. Frame time comes in, right? So that's the number of milliseconds that has passed since the last frame. So we're just incrementing our little curdir, which is the current duration of the timer. So if the current duration is less than the max duration, basically we keep ticking, we keep going. And there's kind of a little interpolation thing happening, not interpolation there, but basically we have an on-tick function that we can specify for a timer or animation as well, where we can have something happen every tick of the frame, which is how you actually animate something, how you actually make something color fade out or do something, right? Because it's basically looking at some sort of percentage of the amount of time that's complete, and then taking that, passing it through some sort of function, and then that tells you, what value to use on the other end. Anyway, we don't really care about the on tick at this point. Basically, we do. Basically, if curdir is greater than or equal to max dir, so in other words, once that frame time pushes us right over the timer limit and we've expired, our time is now expired, our timer has now elapsed, then we pause it right away. We do that right away. This dot paused equals true. So I think we really can just check the paused. If we're not paused, if our animation is not paused, then don't destruct immediately. Destruct on elapse of the timer. I think we can do it. Because I had forgotten that I added this little pause true thing. And there's a thing where the repeat on elapse is a Boolean. So we have that set on elapse thing that we did before. If timer should repeat, have the on elapse method reset the timer. Oh, yes. You know what? This is kind of dumb that I do that. This should just I don't know. Anyway, basically, I think we can call it good. I think all we need to do is just check the paused thing. So let's go back to our match. So instead of if animation running, we literally can just do if this dot bubbles prev bubble ID dot fade anim dot paused. Well, so we're not paused. If we're not paused, basically. So if our animation is not paused, if it's running, then delay the destruction of the bubble until after the animation is completed. Basically, that's what we're saying. I think we got it, ladies and gentlemen. I think we got it. We have it. We got it? Have it? Sorry, I got to do one hit of coffee, one hit of water. Because otherwise my throat dries out from the coffee, And I get raspy real quick. Okay. So, this should work. The one thing I want to check, I'm going to put a little console log in our destruct method of our bubble now, just to make sure that I'm really destructing the bubble. Because I don't want a memory leak. So, oh, whew, okay. I was going to say that's a big method, but this is another separate method. Okay, so if we're not in, yeah, I hate all of that stuff. Stupid. Actually, let's just put this down here. Console CLG. CLG bubble. What are we gonna do? Bubble. Whoops. Bubble this.id destructed. Yeah. So we'll just print that just for a quick reference to make sure I really am destructing the bubbles when the timer expires. So, okay, so now we've got our animation time set to like 2 seconds again. So we will, did I refresh? Oh, maybe I needed to refresh there. I didn't refresh, possibly. I'm not seeing console log. Oh, that's... I don't even know how my own game works. Okay, so we pop this one. This one won't get destructed until we pop the next one. Okay, so now I'm going to pop green, and we should immediately see in our console there on the side, the console, the browser console there, we should immediately see some entry pop in there. There'll already be some other stuff pop in there because I've already got whatever, but yes, there we go. All right, so the green bubble 0 is destructed immediately on that pop, which is what we wanted. So our code came in here. The animation was not paused, or was paused, so it skipped down to this line and then destroyed the bubble. Actually, let me flip this around. I want to flip the if statement. I can get rid of the not. You guys ever find yourself doing that? Getting sick of like doing nots or like not something. I get confused with how many like nots there are. Not this, not, you know, like, or not, you know, like I like Booleans. I like, sometimes you come across systems where the Boolean has like a no or a not in front of it, like the variable name, right? Like instead of a Boolean that would be like const running, or the not const, but like let running equal true or something. It's like let not running, and then you get to the point where it's like, okay, if we're not running, I'm like. You ever see that? Am I crazy? I feel like they have that in. Sometimes you'll have that like in a game setting or something, or not in a game setting, like not even in a game setting, just in like certain things where you have. Oh, like Chrome. Chrome has disable hardware acceleration. So it's like it's unchecked, right? Typically by default, like you always want hardware acceleration most of the time, but then you have. That checkbox says disable hardware acceleration. So it's like you got to remember, oh yeah, that checkbox is to disable it, to not have hardware acceleration. But I want hardware acceleration, so unchecked. Basically, if a system was designed without the variable running, and you got to quickly add a state variable for not running without running a migration, you want to add positive variables. Without running a migration, you want to add positive variables, right? You don't want to mess with any logic if you don't have to, right? I feel like that's how they appear. I think I'm guilty of doing. I got you. So it's something you add like after the fact, where you might need to like switch that up. I got you. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It drives me crazy. Maybe other people, I can't tell left and rights all the time, so maybe that's my problem. And I had a hard time. I was having a conversation with my wife a couple days ago. Might have been I think 2 nights ago. And we were discussing something, and I was trying to say, I'm not trying to say, like I was like double negativing myself kind of, but in like a grammatically correct way. But it was just like, I like couldn't think. I was like, okay, I just did the not once. I did the not, and I'm like thinking in my head as I'm saying it, like I'm flipping true to false, A equals mx plus b, y equals mx plus b. No, I'm just kidding. That has nothing to do with it. I just farted on that equation there. Really hard, but yeah. Double negatives, two negatives make a positive. Yeah, okay. Anyway. Okay. So, what was I doing? I was basically just flipping the Boolean here. Yeah, so I was saying if the animation is paused, well, okay, Codico, here you go. Right now, this is kind of the problem. I have a variable called paused, but should I have a variable called running instead? But I like paused because that's more explicit. Like, because if it's not running, does that just mean like it's been paused, or like does that mean if it's not running? I guess it's maybe not so explicit. So that's why I like paused in this case. So it's kind of the negative, because this is kind of like saying not running. Pause is like saying not running, but it's not saying not running. So I'm paused. I like paused. I like paused in this case. But I wanted to avoid saying not paused. So in other words, to say running, Sergey 20H. Sergey, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. I really do. Thank you very much. I'm getting confused. Haha. Yeah, no worries, Codico. No worries. I am too. I have no idea what's going on. But pause is like the same as saying not running. But I'm removing the not, because paused and not running is kind of the same thing. Or we're not playing, like. But I have a timer. It's in the context of a timer. So the timer could be paused. So anyway, I think this is good. So I'm checking if the timer's paused now. So if it's paused, destruct the bubble right away. Because if it's paused, that should mean the timer is done, or the animation is done. Paused and not started, maybe not the same. Right, yes. That's what I kind of agree. I agree with that. Like, paused might be different than like not running, or like never started running or something. In my case, I just paused is like the only state variable I have for a timer. So it pauses when it expires, which is maybe not the best design either. But I don't think it's really going to cause me any issues. So if we're not paused, basically if it's... not paused. Yes, my timer / animation system API, whatever, is like, I say system, but it's really not that complicated. It's like I wanted to keep it flexible, but it's kind of now at a point where it's like it's flexible enough that maybe now I don't have like a concrete way to like really ensure that something happens. Because I would hate to like in the future make it so that paused like this pause is not set to true at the end of the animation. Anyway, I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Okay, so I flipped these around, so we should be fine now. If the timer is paused, if the timer is expired, I'm going to say if the timer is elapsed, no, or say expired. I'm going to use the word expired for this comment. If the timer is expired, destruct the bubble right away. Okay, destruct the bubble right away. Paused. Timer is set to pause when elapsed. On elapsed. Pause is say pause is set to true. Okay, that's good enough. All right, just a little documentation there for myself in the future when I change everything and everything breaks. So, yeah. Sorry, if I drink my coffee weird, it's because I have to like my mic stand is here, so I have to lift it up. So I just like keep my arm up in the air kind of awkwardly like this. So I can like just quickly put it down rather than like going like this, setting it down, doing this. Cuz then I have to move my hand like this to be able to set it down nicely, cuz otherwise if it's like this, if my hand's in this position, then it's a little harder on my wrist to like set it back down. So I kind of just keep my hand like in this position to kind of, I don't know. Either way, my wrist hurts, so maybe. You don't have room right by the keyboard. I'm left, well, oh, you mean like on the right side? Well, I'm left-handed, so I always gotta have the drink in this hand. And the other, okay, so then the logical thing would be, oh, move the mic to the right side, right? Well, my XLR cord for the mic is like a 3-footer, 1 meter. Kodaco, I know you're in Europe, so 1 meter, about, more or less. I mean, just like by the belly table meters, thanks. Well, I don't know exactly what you're saying, because I have this like big space for my mouse over here, up for my mouse pad area. I have one of those like full big mouse pads, really big mouse pads. And I've got a little spot. I could have a drink here on the right, but I'm left-handed, so I don't like that. So I could move this over, and I have a pretty wide desk. But I could move the mic over, but then I'd have to get a longer XLR cable and just hook it around the back, which wouldn't be that big of a deal. I should really just do it, You mentioned you have a monster mic arm. It's not. It's just a normal like microphone stand. It's a normal microphone stand, and it's right, like, on the floor here. Yeah, I don't know. I could do something about it, but we'll see. We shall see. Oh, actually, let's take out that line there. Destruct the previous bubble. If timer is expired, destruct the bubble right away. Otherwise destruct when the animation finishes. Destruct when the animation finishes. All right, and we didn't finish testing all of this. But we want to do that now. So we got the really slow animation times on now. So if I do purple there, whoops. If I do purple here, the animation finishes 2 seconds or whatever. Then I pop the maroon bubble here. Boom, instantly we've got bubble 0 destructed. So that's good. If we now what we want to do is pop this one and then oops. Oh. If the window goes inactive, yeah, my space bar is now my focus is now in the console there, so my space bar doesn't work to pop anymore. It's kind of annoying. So if we pop, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to pop purple and immediately pop brown. And we should see that purple lets its animation finish. We got those long 2-second animations of it fading out. So it will fade out after, and we'll pop brown, and then we will see purple destruct. So if we go here, here, bubble 0 destructed. So the timer went out. And there's that little bit of overlap there, which is kind of funny. It's kind of ironic that it happened twice in a row. Kind of improbable that it happened twice in a row. Yeah, so let's do, okay, so let's look at that again. So now we're good. Blue is destructed. So now if we, let's do it again. I don't know why I'm doing this from the top. So if we go here, 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 here. Now we got like a bunch of bubbles destructing and fading out. Or that will destruct. Let's do it this way. This will be kind of cool. So let me pop like 3 in a row really quick. Ah, that did not work at all. I don't know why I keep refreshing. I don't need to do that. There we go. We got 3 in a row, and then boom, boom, boom. Oh, the last one. Okay, so only 2 of them destructed. That's right, because the other one will come back if we make a mistake. The pink one came back. So we should see like 3 of them right there. Restart. So if I go, let's clear the console. So if I go 1, 2, whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we see bubble 0, 1, 2, destructed all there once the animation's actually finished. So that's good now. That's good. I think that's all we really needed to do. Took me only 2 hours to do that. Okay. Codico, like we were saying before, yeah. I don't know. Should not have taken me that long to get that. All right. Well, we pretty much, I think we tied that one up. Let's do, and really all it was just, at the end, I just was able to just check this one Boolean. Well, I hardly got anything done today, and I was coding all day. No, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. It's hard. There's days where you just really crunch through, you get a ton done, feels great, and then there's days where it's just like, man, I didn't get anything done. Definitely. I mean, that's probably any job, but like programming in general, like depending on the type of task you're working on, some days it's just like, man, I felt like I didn't really get anything done. Okay, so we got that taken care of. We probably got another hour or maybe hour and a half of streaming left. We'll see. So let's do okay, I could get rid of this comment now. Everything seems to be fine. We can do, let's just do one little test of well, we can change our animation time back, but let's just do like a little event emitter test or a event leak test. Where we go, okay, so I'm fairly certain we're going to be okay, but nonetheless, we'll just do like a little 30-second match test. Let's go back to our config. Actually, I don't need bubble open there anymore. Okay, so we're going back to here. We're going to make this 30 seconds again. We're just doing a normal 30-second single-player game. And I'm just going to play like kind of fast, just normal. And we're just going to make sure that our event listeners go back to, actually I should have, okay, so our event listener count is 30. That's our baseline right now. We want to make sure if we've got anything leaky, obviously when we go back to the main menu, this number won't be 30. So we should be always at 30 when we go back to the main menu. So let's just play a normal game, make sure we didn't miss any. If any of those bubbles didn't get destructed, then we'd have a weird number of things left. Ah! Okay. Oh boy. All right. So we're at 31 event listeners here, but that's kind of not really important because technically these are all, this is an event, this has some event listeners, this has some event listeners, this does, a bunch of these do, this has got multiple, a bunch of extra things here. So when we quit, we go back, is it going to be at 30? There we go, 30. Beautiful. Okay. That's why I left this nice little event listener count thing on here, because it's pretty nice. All right, so we don't have any leaks, at least according to that, but I'll be keeping an eye just in case. But I think we can call this one good. So let's see. What's next? I'm going to pull up the master Trello here. I've got the public one open here, but we can move that destructed bubble thing out now. We can move that out of there. That feels good. We can move in basically tutorial issue. I want to look at this one first. Clean up duplicate nav meter code. So I move that out here. We've got some. Yeah, we've got basically what I did was at one point in time. So our nav meter, the nav meter, what is the nav meter, you might ask? I didn't want to refresh Trello. That's not what I wanted to do. Here we go. The nav meter is basically this thing here. It's the object that kind of represents this thing. And there's another component, kind of subcomponent of that that's called the nav meter bubble. So basically that's what each circle is inside of the nav meter. So basically there's bubbles here that you play and you pop, and then there's nav meter bubbles that are kind of represented by these bubbles here. And like obviously those get created kind of one-to-one with the bubbles that are out here on the playing field, if that kind of makes sense. So I've got a bunch of all of my nav meter setup code logic is duplicated because when I did the tutorial, I started using for the tutorial. Okay, let's pull over this window here. So do I really need all this open? We don't need timer open anymore. We don't need stat screen, stat.js. We don't need any of that stuff open. I'll keep these other things open for right now. So the tutorial, I believe, oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, wait a minute. What happened here? No. What? Okay, post-game screen. Oh. Sorry, I'm breaking my rule of I've been keeping my server code here in the left pane and my client code in the right pane. And I want to keep, we're not doing anything on the server right now, but I want to Blue Exabyte, what's up, Tyrannosaur? Blue Exabyte, what's going on? Not a whole lot here, just picking off some kind of low-hanging fruit right now. Some low-hanging bugs or code cleanup-y kinds of things. We just fixed a bug right before you got here. And we're starting the next task. It's been 2 hours of fixing one little simple bug. That wasn't even really a bug, to be honest. Because you probably would never even notice it, but it was just a slight graphical issue. Good stuff. Sounds like coding. Exactly. Codeco and I were definitely having a discussion about that. About getting things done while programming and how you spend all day and doesn't really feel like you got anything done. So, yeah, what's going on, Blue Exabyte? You just finished streaming or something like that? Actually, I don't know if I followed you. And Codeco, you stream too, don't you? Whoops. All right, I'm going to make a note. I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to make a note to go back and follow a bunch of people who follow me that are nice. Now, I was just chilling, probably going to stream some Rocket League in a bit. Nice. Nice, yeah. Okay, I'm going to make a little reminder here for myself. going to do it with Notepad off to the side here. Follow, because there's other people who follow me and they support me very well, and I have not followed them back and checked out their streams. I've been kind of doing it, but with some people that I remember, but not everyone. Okay. My reminder has been made. There we go. Beautiful. I added it to the Trello. No, I'm just kidding. Didn't do that. All right. Yeah, Kodako's been here like every day the last few streams, and I've not. And I forgot that Kodako even streams, so I got to pay it forward. All right. So I've never played Rocket League, Blue Exabyte. Never played it. I mean, I'm familiar with it, of course, but yeah. I watched the No Clip documentary of it on YouTube. Thought that was kind of interesting. It's a nice stream to chill in. Oh, thanks, Kodako. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Actually, I recently got NVIDIA GeForce Now and can now play Rocket League. I think it was surprisingly fun. Nice, nice. GeForce Now. I know what GeForce Now, or I know I've heard of GeForce Now, but I can't remember what it is. It's the streaming platform for gaming. Like Stadia. Oh, that's right. That's right. Now, okay, now that rings a bell. I guess I don't care about streaming gaming platforms, so that's why it wasn't fresh in my head. Blue Exabyte, but I understand that that whole time not feeling like getting work done in a day, but I think it's more of just making sure you look at it in the macro sense and not the micro, just like getting stuff done as a whole, not just tasks. Yeah, for sure, Blue Exabyte. Yeah, because it really is like a mind game thing you play with yourself. Like if you've got a bunch of little, like if you've got a whole stack of like little 5-minute tasks that have been there for a long time, and you go through, like what I fixed just now, I considered kind of like a 5-minute task, even though it was like a 2-hour task in reality. Well, maybe more like a 30-minute task with what it should have been. But when you knock those off, like you feel like I got a lot of stuff done, you know. But then you have like one task that you sit down and work on all day, and sometimes it'll feel like, man, I didn't get anything done. But you really, your code output. Not that that's necessarily a good metric to kind of look at, but kind of your code productivity output was kind of high, even with that. Bet Kitty dropping a deuce there. Also, yeah, I enjoy Rocket League. Kind of hate FPS style games, so it's one of the few I can enjoy. Gotcha. FPS style games. Yeah, FPS is kind of like my thing, I feel like. Bet Kitty, did Bet Kitty text me? Oh, actually, yeah, Bet Kitty texted me and I didn't text her back. Bet Kitty's my wife, by the way, so whenever she throws a chat message, I usually seem very unimpressed when she appears. I feel like most multiplayer games people play are FPS. IDK, I just kind of suck at that. I got you. Yeah, I got you for sure. That's true. Yeah, I mean, like first-person shooters definitely like the game. Like I would say like like obviously Among Us is like a really popular game or whatever, but I feel like it's kind of like a trend kind of thing. Like it spikes and it's a popular game for a while, and it'll go down at some point. But I feel like it's it's the Fortnites. I mean, Fortnite is obviously not first person, but it's a lot of the shooters, the FPSs that kind of get up there and stay there in terms of popularity. I feel like, right, exactly. And FPS games always stick around. Right. Among Us is really fun. It's just hard to get 10 people together whenever you want to play. Yeah, I gotcha. I actually recently picked it up. I've never played it yet, but my brother-in-law and I were talking, who both kind of game, and we've got family members who don't really game, but we kind of wanted to find some fun games for like everybody to play that we could kind of get our family all involved in. So I picked up Among Us with the intention of, and I gifted it to some family members with the intention that hopefully we can get everybody to play. Because everybody's got a computer. We just need to actually play games together, you know? Nice. Definitely something to play during Christmas. Yes. That sounds pretty good. There'll be some nice, relaxing days. Lying with family. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Because that's what it is. I didn't kill you, right? Or something like. Well, actually, the kind of funny thing, the funny thing about that, because Among Us is basically the game, like the real the IRL game, Body. Like, you turn all the lights off in the house. Everybody walks around. One person's the killer. They go and silently kill people. Then when somebody finds a dead body, you know, if you get killed, you're supposed to just lay on the floor. If somebody finds the dead body, they say, body, lights come on, and then you sit there and point fingers. And my family was playing this game back in August, like my entire family, my entire extended family. Back in August when my wife and I went on vacation to kind of traveled far away to visit all my extended family. And like literally everyone was playing Mafia. It's very much like Mafia. My family also plays Mafia. But Body is like, so Mafia is like you just sit in the circle, right? And then you heads down, pick a person to kill, right? But Body is actually like a physical one where you go and touch the person. Like you walk around with the lights off in the house. So like you turn all the lights off, everybody walks around, you know. Ideally, you've got a bunch of rooms or whatever. And you go around and you kill the person, you know, one person kills people. Should be an easy sell then. Well, actually, that's my family that we played Body with. But this is my wife's family that we're trying to get to play Among Us with. So there's a little bit of a disconnect there. But anyway, yes. But either way, it should be an easy sell, I think. Because my wife's family, they do like to get together and play Age of Empires too. So that's why they all have computers and they all have Steam. So I think they just don't like trying new games. That's kind of the thing. So, but I think Among Us will work for that. But we'll see. All right. So, okay. So, we're looking now at our nav meter code. We've got some duplicate code, but it wasn't, again, this is something that wasn't super trivial to just destroy the old code, which is why I made this a task to look at later. So we've got my what I've been doing for my entity classes that require like some bulky setup to them. For example, the nav meter, it kind of requires, it's got a bunch of properties and stuff and all sorts of stuff. So it has a fairly complicated, not complicated, but there's a lot of setup code. So for the entities that have a lot of setup code, I create a static method. I have a static method that I call create, and then you pass in whatever parameters you need, and then it's a fairly straightforward point A to point B kind of function that just runs through, sets a bunch of stuff up that doesn't require much context. At least it doesn't require much global context. Obviously, like any context you do need for that, you pass in there. But otherwise, it's a static method, so it's it's just a function basically, and then that will return a nav meter object at the end. So that's kind of the pattern I've been doing for stuff like that. Now, basically what happened is I started using this for the tutorial, for the nav meter that gets generated in the tutorial. And so like once you make it to the second step of the tutorial here, you see a nav meter. But there's some reason why I didn't use it for, there's another method or another function out there that's very similar to this, that's being used somewhere. And I don't remember exactly why, because there's some other context that makes it weird in the normal game mode. The normal match makes it weird to use it, not straightforward to use just this static create method. So that's what I got to dive into. I am going to take a quick bathroom break though. So we'll be right back. And I got to see if there's more coffee upstairs. So we'll be right back. All right, we are back. So I really need to kind of just familiarize myself with what the problem is here with our nav meter. And actually, maybe did I write a description on this? Yes, I did. Oh, okay. So I just wrote what's happening, but there's a limitation as to why, and I didn't explain what that was. Nav meter setup code has been moved to static navmeter.create function, but it's not being used yet in marathon.create. The marathon is kind of, that name is gone. It's just called match now. So match.create. So the code is duplicated. Yes. So inside of match.create. So again, let's split the window here. Let's look at tutorial real quick. So tutorial is using navmeter navmeter.create. Yeah, right here. So we're using navmeter.create to get our nav meter. So that's awesome. But match, if we go to match, and we go to navmeter or match.create, this is a big function here. A lot of stuff gets set up. So if we go to navmeter here, where do we actually create the, okay. So then here we do the new nav meter. Basically though, all of this code, there's a bunch of code here that this is all kind of our duplicate code. Oh yeah, here's the to-do then. Oh, so I do have a to-do for this. Remove the nav meter here and use navmeter.create. Right, so this, all of this, const nav bubbles, basically, again, this is, whoops, this is inside of our match object. So this is just kind of hard, not hard coded, but what am I trying to say? This match is, the nav meter setup is just basically like duplicated right here. Like we can see it kind of matches one-to-one here. But there are some key differences, and that's the things, that's why I didn't just copy and paste this out before in, 2 seconds, change it. So we need to actually kind of dig in and see what the deal is. So I'm going to kind of go line by line to see what the differences are. So again, this is the one we're trying to get rid of. But there's going to be some key differences, and that's should be the tricky part. So, okay, so all of this I think is pretty much the same. Config.match.navmeter. Yeah, that's all just, playArea.pose. Okay, what are we doing for this one? We're assuming canvas wrapper.halfwidth, not playArea.pose. Okay, let's just keep going. Nav bubble props, nav bubble Y between picks. That's all the same already. Units are. You know what? What about this? What about this? Let's just try commenting this all out and just start using the new one and see what happens. That's a better idea. Because maybe I made a mistake and it's very possible I just made a mistake. So let's just comment all of this out, and then we are going to do const nav meter equals nav meter dot create, and then we pass in bubbles, which should be just like that, right? Yeah, okay. So that should be all we need to do. But we're going to see why. I'm pretty sure that this doesn't work, but it's also possible I could just be way wrong now. So let's refresh. Let's hit play, and then, okay, so we do have an error here. Nav bubble props is not defined. Okay, match.js 331. Whoops. Oh, I kind of remember now. No? Technically, these progress meter setup, this could just get these ones will need to be replaced with whatever number. Oh, those ones there. Okay. Technically, I could just do navmeter.nav bubble props now, right? Yeah. Okay, so we can just change this to... Okay, so that in theory is the only error we've got. Nav meter dot nav bubble props minus nav meter dot nav bubble props. Whoops. Oh, that. Okay. Maybe that's all we needed to do. Let's see. Play. Nav meter height pix is not defined. Okay, so there are some very... okay, now I'm remembering what it was. Now I'm really remembering what the problem was. So there's a value that gets calculated, and for our... And it's honestly kind of dumb. Nav meter height pix. Maybe we can just do nav meter height pix. Where does nav meter height pix get used? Let's look at that. There should be const nav meter height. There's nav meter height units, and then there should be nav meter height pix at some point. Just multiplies the units by our pixels per unit to get our pix. Nav meter height units. Is that saved anywhere? Nav. How? Okay, so when we do when we resize the window, I want to see what we do to actually resize if the window gets resized, there's a bunch of stuff that happens. Update size and position. So we just change those positions based upon pixels per unit times the whatever. Const neg offset is now bubble props offset. Blah. Yeah, we don't do anything with the height. So I'm trying to think of what the best way. Okay, so this isn't really necessarily a problem. Like I could fix it right now in 2 seconds, but it's a matter of what's kind of the best way. What is kind of the best way to do this right now, just to avoid making things weird or confusing? So basically, I've got one variable here, and I think it should just be this one variable because we've already taken care of these. And we kind of need to just determine if we should pass... Like, do we just pass another parameter to our nav meter that's like nav meter? Yeah, like, do we just do nav meter height pix? And then we do this dot nav meter height pix, and then... Like, then we do this dot nav meter height pix. And then we just set that to nav meter height pix. And then if we do that, then in the create method, we could just pass that in. So we just pass that in here, nav meter height pix. And then we could just use it here. Because it's kind of just a temporary thing. Nav meter dot nav meter height pix. So technically we solve the problem here, but that's okay. Then there's another thing. Nav meter height pix is not defined. Match.js 344. Okay, so there's another spot where it's used. Okay, so we got the one right. Nav meter height pix. Okay, right here, 344. So we just do nav meter dot nav meter height pix. But I don't like, I don't know. I don't like just saving that variable, that property for like no good reason, because it's not even, it would never get updated either when size changes. So it's like, it's not even accurate. It's only really used just to pass that data down is kind of the thing. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't really know. I can't really think of a better way at this point. Nav meter height pix is not defined. Match 359. Come on, we keep using it over and over again. 359. Nav meter height pix. So we do. I should have just did a find replace. Whatever. Whoops. Nav meter dot nav meter height pix. All right, that should be it. Yeah. Okay, that should really be it. And we didn't hit. We got all the way down to 359. So that should be all there is. Okay, we're good now. Just make sure resizing everything works. Yeah. Because again, so the reason why that variable's there is because the nav meter height pix is the number of pixels this thing is high. And then basically this thing, when we set this thing up, the timer, this just copies that height. And then the height, so whatever this ends up being pixel-wise, this just copies it to just match it up. Which is kind of silly because in reality you could make this number like 4. You could make 4 of these instead of 3, or you could make 2 of them instead of that. And then this thing's height would then just match that. But I feel like that's kind of dumb. Like I feel like maybe I should just come up with a nice size multiplier for this and just use that rather than trying to have this match this. It's just a little silly, to be honest. And some of this stuff's going to change. I kind of have an idea about maybe changing how some of this UI stuff looks anyway. And then that would completely decouple that aspect of these two. Whatever. It's good enough for now. This is how the game's going to go for the multiplayer, the 1.0 or whatever. So, yeah, that's how it'll be right out of the gate anyway. So, whatever. Okay, so we got that done. That feels good. Yeah, so let's go back to the Populus Trello there. So I'm going to move that over. Oh, wait a minute. We're not quite done yet. We got to delete all the code from the old one. So we just commented it all out, but we can really get rid of this now. There's another to-do in here. What is this to-do? If bubbles... Okay, so that to-do is in the other nav meter. All right, so this will shrink down our code there quite a bit. I like it. Now it's just very simple. Const cursor trail, new cursor trail, const nav meter, new nav meter, all of that. Really nice. Yes. So that shrinks down our create method size quite a bit. I really like this. 220. So it's not even, it's pretty much 100 lines now only directly to look at. So that makes it a little easier looking at it. Other than that, there aren't a lot of function calls inside of this match setup code here. I mean, some constructors, obviously, but other than that, there aren't really there shouldn't be a ton of function calls. Initialization calls, but those aren't very big either. But otherwise, there's not any sort of weird path setup things other than the bubbles, bubble creates, and bubble creations, and now our where did it go? Now our nav meter creation and everything. So the bubble creation and the nav meter creation kind of got offloaded, but I think everything's pretty okay. So that's good. We didn't change anything with the nav meter code, so that is fine. We don't really need to do anything with that. Now, we got two down. So what is our next one? We have tutorial issues. This one might be a little more complicated. Oh, I just remembered another task. We need to have like new menu buttons for new menu layout for multiplayer, or we'll say new main menu layout for multiplayer, multiplayer. I don't know how I truncated that in my head. That was weird. I don't really need to explain that, but basically that would be UI, UX, and for right now, that's all I really could think of. So the new main menu layout for multiplayer. We're also going to need like another UX thing would be like match, waiting for opponent screen. So like kind of a waiting, loading screen kind of thing. And another thing I would like to have is, so like right now, basically we've got multiplayer going. And right now, obviously we require a main menu that would be, oh, I have to refresh that. So right now the queue for multiplayer game or button is this red thing. So you click that and then technically this screen should say like waiting for a match or something like that. It should be doing something like that. And then this player clicks and then the game starts right away, right? So we need some sort of like nice waiting for match screen. And I would like immediately to add the ability to, when you're waiting for a match, to have like another button that would say practice while you're waiting. Because especially now that, I mean, not a lot of people are going to be playing this game up front. You know, they might join in while the stream is there. And now with going forward with multiplayer being a thing, more people will kind of stick around and play a little more rather than just try out the single player or whatever. They might stick around and play a little bit because of the multiplayer. So it would be nice to not just, you queue for a multiplayer match, and since there might not be a lot of people here, it would be a shame to just have you queue and you just have to sit there and wait. And like, that's it. And you're just sitting there and waiting and waiting. So it would be really nice, and it should be relatively easy to just, you queue, and then there's a button like practice while you're waiting. And then you just start practicing while you're waiting, and maybe there's like a little indicator saying waiting for match that's kind of moving or something to kind of give you the impression that, it's still waiting for a match. And then finally, if another player joins, bing, it would like say match found, and then kick you out of your practice game, your current practice game right away, and then put you right into the match with the human player. I feel like that'd be kind of cool to have. And I think that would be, I think that's kind of essential, actually. So obviously the new menu, we need a kind of a new main menu layout. Like I'd like to keep, like obviously this is a little button here for this, but it's not supposed to be a clickable button. But since this is a button, I just decided to make this the button to queue for multiplayer. But obviously we'll get rid of that, and we'll have maybe, I don't know how we want to lay out the main menu now, but there would be like the play button here might now become the multiplayer button. So like you click here to play multiplayer. Otherwise you'd have the tutorial button still, but it would maybe be like the play button, the practice button, and tutorial button kind of in like a little more like triangle setup kind of thing. And then you'd have all that, and that would be kind of your main menu buttons, and then you'd still have the Populus logo here off to the side probably, and this little red thing here that is just technically supposed to be part of the logo, but it's a button technically. So I think that's what we'd end up doing. I'm not going to do the main menu stuff today. We're probably not going to be streaming for too much longer. Maybe another 30 minutes or so. Maybe another hour. I don't know. But it feels good to be getting rid of this low-hanging fruit, because this is definitely something that, it makes me feel like I'm really getting closer to, and it's helping me organize my thoughts and getting closer to what we're actually going to have the game be when we launch it, the multiplayer. So again, you can play Populus right now. It's live right now. I'll bang it in the chat there. Populus, populus.gg. You can go there and play it right now. Just the single player. So I'm actually on populus.gg right here. This is what it looks like. You can play. There's a tutorial. You can resize the main menu, and it works. Kodako, do you have Google Analytics to see how many people go on it, will you? I do have Google Analytics actually running now. Right after I went live, like a couple days after I initially went live with the current version you see here right now, I added Google Analytics. So I do have some insight on, people playing, and obviously a few people played out. There's kind of like one person trying it out per day, like that I'm not streaming for the most part, which is probably my mother-in-law. Because she told me she's been playing it every day. So, but otherwise, it kind of goes, there's kind of some people that play a little bit, every so often that aren't me. Nice, so good to have some insight on that. Yeah, for sure, because really I'd have no idea otherwise. So that's helpful to kind of figure out what I need to do kind of going forward. And especially once we go live with the multiplayer, and I really want to try to kind of hone in on, or once multiplayer's live, I might actually start kind of trying to post the game around a few places. We'll see. I mean, I'd like to still kind of keep it as more of a test version right now. But yeah, kind of something like that. Yes. All right. So what were we just looking at just now? What were we supposed to be looking at? Whoa. 31 event listeners. Hang on a second here. What is going on? Are there supposed to be 31 now? 30? Or do we have some sort of leak now? There is one little graphical thing. Oh, we do have a leak. Okay. All right, what did I just change that would be causing that leak now? So something with the nav meter. It has to be. Let's see if we get 2 now. Oh. Oh, yeah. There's one little graphical not issue, like the little highlighting circle that goes around the bubble. Like sometimes that can be at a smaller size, because I believe it's using the current radius. Okay, yeah, okay. We do have a little leak in there. Look at that. We got 32 event listeners now. Yeah, okay, so this is the tutorial issues that I want to look at right now, but I need to figure out why. How could that be? How could that be? So let's look at, let's see if we can print the event listeners. That would help. And I can kind of dig through them. Event emitter, how do we got get listener count, but how do we just print the, oh, actually that's part of the application code. There should be a line, yeah. Okay. So we've got a little, I forget what part this is at here. Match. Okay, so on match ended, we print all the event listeners. So let's just play. Oh, did I refresh? Let's refresh. There we go. Make sure we get the new code. There's a lot of small ones there. Okay. So we've got, did I print the event listeners at the beginning? That would have helped. But the draw, okay, draw finish, we got 14 in there. 14 event listeners in there. The very last one is, it's a timer. That doesn't really help me very much. We're at 32. We quit. This doesn't really help. Because I can't actually dig in, can I? We look at this. Oh yeah, because I just see the timer code, which doesn't really help because all of these draw finished events are timers basically, except for this one, which is part of the. We have to enable that dumb thing again, don't we? Do I have to do that in entity? Let's see here. I have to enable something where we do. Let's see. We do. I think I can do this with just 2 little clicks here. We do that, and then we do event emitter. We comment out this, and then this, and then we do this, and then this. And I believe that's all we really need. Oh, we need to do the correct off function here. Oh no, that breaks the off. I need a better way to do this. I need a better way to do this. Oops. Okay. You would have thought I could have come up with a better way to look at these. Base class for any game object that has global event listeners. Wait a minute. Let's look at, if I look at this, if we look at a, oh, that's kind of cool. Timer.js 34. That's kind of nice. But that doesn't really help us with yeah, that just tells us the timer. That just tells us about the timer, but we don't actually see, or can we see some values in here? Oh, I think we can see some values. Maybe? No. Module. I've never really looked at what this stuff is here. Entity length. Yeah, this is just the... Let's see. So what did I just change that caused us to get leaky here? Pretty much just play another game real quick, make sure I'm not crazy. Okay. Quit 31. Yeah, so we're definitely a little leaky here. Oh, here the draw finish is showing 10. That's weird. Let's see. So oh no, wait. I think we did do this to handle this. Hang on a second here. All right. I got to comment this out, comment this in. We go here, we comment this out, comment this in, comment this out, comment this in. Then we comment this out and comment this in. I believe this will do it for us here. Uncaught type error. Listener is not a function. Event emitter 37. Oh, and then I forgot. I got to comment this out and comment this in. There we go. Go. Done. Play. look at draw finished. Now, wait a minute here. Why are there 14 all of a sudden? Hang on. Let's go to a 10. Let's just set our timer. Can't see why. What happened to our config? Is this it? It should be over here. Okay. Move it on the end there. All right. So we want to change this just to a... Or wait, yeah, we'll just do 10 seconds, a 10-second game. Let's play. Oops, okay, first let's check our baseline. Yeah, we got 30 event listeners. Play a game. $23, $32, yep, now we got 31. So we've got a little leak there. Draw finish, we've got 10. Yeah, so why does this print weird sometimes? Princeton shows 14 sometimes. I don't know what's going on with that. So in our Matt Jax 12, I just tried the game. I really like it. Very satisfying. Hey, thank you very much, Matt Jax 12. I appreciate it muchly. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, glad you could find the game enjoyable. I am trying to track down some funky bugs right now. Well, I guess you've kind of been, maybe you kind of picked up on that. Okay, so this last thing here, we need to look at what's a max duration of 150. What has a max duration of 150? Because this is basically something that comes in something in the nav meter, perhaps. Let's look. Or in the nav bubble, I guess. Because we're back at 31 event listeners. Yes, we're back at 31. That's not the right one. This one here. We're back at 31 at the main menu. So in theory, like, what is this lat? This one's 150 as well. Just working on a simple game for my CS data structures class final. So watching this is motivating and helpful. Oh, awesome. Awesome. That's pretty cool. Well, glad it could be motivating. That's good to hear. But that's pretty cool. What's the game you're working on for the for your CS final there? Wumpus. What is Wumpus? Those simple, oh, it's this simple roguelite. Gotcha. Nice, nice. Well, that's cool. That's cool. It's based, this game that's been made in Java. Okay, gotcha. But I guess you're doing it in C or C++ or something like that. Doing data structures. Oh, no, in Java. Oh, okay, okay. It's based off this game. That's okay, gotcha, gotcha. Cool. All right, where's the nav bubble? Nav bubble. This, we should see an animation that has 150 milliseconds. No, so it's not a nav bubble. That is not the problem. Actually, I don't think our problem is wait a minute. I have the basic version almost done. I just really struggle with graphics. I gotcha. You're using some libraries or something for doing the graphics, or doing like software rendering, that sort of thing, maybe? Just JFrame stuff. Okay, gotcha. I'm not familiar with JFrame, but I assume some sort of Java graphics API library, something like that. Java built in. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Look, okay, so the thing I am thinking is that it's possible what bug are you trying to solve? So I have a my game engine for this is kind of event driven. So basically everything happens, there's like a global event emitter object where basically if you want to listen to a certain event in game, you call up to you pass an event listener up, just a function up to that global event emitter. And if you want to, that's if you want to listen to some sort of event. Otherwise, you can also emit events through that thing. And then this one object kind of just manages all of the different listeners and calls all the listeners when a certain event gets fired, whatever. So basically my baseline, well, I've got a leaky event listener. So if you notice here, I've got a 30 event listener count right now. I think I'm familiar. I'm using mouse and action listeners. Just learned about them today. Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, that very similar. I mean, this is the event listener object is kind of my own. It's just part of my engine, but it's separate of like browser. It's separate of like browser events. Like on mouse down, on mouse move. So you made it. Yes. So I have like my class here that's called event emitter. And basically it's basically like a singleton object. So I know you're Matt Jacks, you're doing Java and stuff, so that's, maybe somewhat well, I guess you're probably familiar with the concept of singletons and that sort of thing. So I'm basically exporting this out of this file as a singleton object. So I just have one event emitter object, and it's pretty basic. Basically, I have an on method and an off method, and then an emit method. So the on method is where you set up an event listener. So you say which event, the string name of the event, and you pass in your listener. And then I have this obj parameter here that I'm using just for debugging things. But basically, you pass the string of the event that you want, and you pass in the listener method that you want. And then basically the event emitter has its own internal hash map of all the events, where the string event name is the key, and the value is an array, I think. And basically there's an emit method where any object, any other in-game thing can say emit this event. And then this event emitter will then loop through all the event listeners and call all of the event listeners for that given event, and pass any arguments that you want. And then there's also off method where you can unlisten to an event. You can pull an event listener out and have it stop listening to an event. So the problem is I have one component here in the game that is now like a little leaky. So if you see here when we're at the main menu right now, just started fresh here. We've got 30 event listeners. So if we play the game, we just play. I got the time set for 10 seconds right now rather than the default 30 or the typical 30 seconds. So now our time's up. We're at the stats screen, and then we quit. Now we're back. Now we have 31 event listeners. So if I play again, oh. And like during the game, the event listener number is going to be going all over the place, which is fine. But every time we go back to the main menu, we should be back to 30. Oh, and now we're at 33. So there's something there is leaking a couple extra, something in there is leaking a couple extra events. So basically some events are not getting removed. Oh, I missed some stuff here. Some chats here. Thank you for such a good explanation. Oh, well, thanks. I'm glad I could have explained it well. Ruivo. Good evening. Ruivo. How's it going? Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Matt Jack's 30 is already so hard. Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I did 10 seconds just so I could quickly test stuff out. But yeah, we definitely here this last game we have 2 extra event listeners that leaked through now. So they're stuck. They're basically orphaned. Cuz like those objects that put those event listeners there are gone. So like we've got some event listeners there that are not, they're orphaned now. And yeah, so the game theoretically you just keep playing and those event listeners would just keep going up. And it probably wouldn't make any difference at all. But now we quit. But we're back at 33 there still. Ruivo is now following. Thank you, Ruivo, for the follow. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And Matt Jax 12 is now following. Thanks, Matt Jax. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out and everything. Can you see what those event listeners are? Yes. So I've been printing those to the browser console right here. I've been doing a dump of basically the events hash map here. Hash table map, whatever. It's a JavaScript map object, which is basically a hash table kind of thing. So I've been dumping that to the console and at the end of a match, so that's what we're seeing here. So we can see all the different types of events. These are the string names. Match countdown started, match ended, stat screen quit, in-game quick, start, key finish, blah, 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 cursor up, down, all this stuff. So these are all of the, or when you print a map, so we're printing a JavaScript map. So it's got 21 items in it. And then we can see, with the way it formats this is we're seeing the key, and then there's a little arrow here, and then the value. So key points to that value. So all my values are basically arrays of then event listeners. So some of these should always, like we saw with there's our baseline 30 event listeners or whatever. Okay, so this is what I need to do. So when for whatever reason, I didn't actually, if we go back to our application object here, which is kind of our top level object that kind of manages kind of the whole game, we should have some, okay, here we go. So I just had this commented out. So basically when our application gets initialized, we're going to console log. So the whole thing gets set up and we should be at the main menu and everything. And then we print the event listeners, all of them right here. So that'll let us see all of the baseline events. Okay, so we've got that printed right here. We've got a map with 14 elements. And we can see our 14 events, and we have I'm going to take a little quick screenshot of this off to the side. So I'll just have this off to the side here. Technically, I don't really need it, but I'm going to put it off screen here. And then, okay, so we've got that. This is our baseline. This is like our snapshot of what the what event listeners we should have every time we're at the main menu. Well, and so, okay, so this is not all the event listeners, but we're seeing the arrays of event listeners. So I can see for match countdown started, we have an array of 1. So we have one listener function that's listening to this event. So like I can expand this. I can expand this map entry here, and we can see we've got the key and then the value, which is an array of one element. So the first element in this array is a listener. It's an object. It's an object that has an obj property, which is the application which is the object that owns that listener, basically. And then the listener function itself. So normally I don't actually print the object that owns this itself, that owns the listener function, but I have a little debug thing that I did to set up, and so I can see that. So that will at least help us track down the exact object that is leaking that event. So now that we've got a little screenshot here and a baseline, I'm going to play a match, and then at the end of the match, it'll do another print of all of our, oops. Come on. Come on, there we go. All right, so now we want to compare. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, this is not what I wanted. I screwed it up. Start over from the top. This is good. This should be the exact same as my screenshot still. Okay, so I just refreshed. Yeah, so we've got a match countdown started with 1. We've got a match started with 2. We got a match ended with 1. We got a stat screen quit with 1. In-game quit button 1, blah, 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 a bunch of stuff. The important one we're looking for is the draw finished. So these are event listeners that are listening for every frame, basically, every tick. So yeah, this screenshot should still be totally fine. So let's go play. Then what I want to do, I forgot what I wanted to do here. We need to go. Okay, so now we want to quit. So we're back at the main menu. We have 31 event listeners. And now I'm going to expand this. And when I expand this, because of the way the JavaScript console works, browser console works, it's going to give us that snapshot of all the event listeners once I actually click the expand here. Okay, and then we get this thing. Yeah, it was evaluated just now. So now, right off the bat, you'll see we've got 21 types of events now versus 14 was what we started with. That is okay. That's not the leaky part. The leaky part is the listener count, the amount of listeners. So the amount of events that are in this hash map is not the problem. We got to go back to our screenshot here. The problem is the number of listeners. So if we count the number of the number of things here, we should end up with 30 in this case. But if we count all of these up here, we're going to end up with 31. Because if you'll notice, we've got, so let's see, we go all the way 0 through 13, right? Because we got 14 elements. So if we go 0 through 13, that should be the same. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. But if you notice, these 7 new ones all have empty arrays, just 0 length arrays. So we've got for 14, an array, empty, 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 empty. So we've got these events in our hash table, in our map. But they don't have any listeners. So that's fine. That's totally fine, because as the game plays, new events are going to be getting added to the map. But it's the listeners that are in those arrays themselves that are the important part. So, ooh, this is interesting. So the problem is not the draw finished, because we're back at 10. Okay, so somewhere we've got one count that doesn't quite match up. So we've got match countdown started. So again, this here is a screenshot of the baseline of what it should be. And this is a screenshot of what the problem is. Actually, I already noticed what the problem was. So here it is. Window resized. Baseline starts out with 1 event listener. Here, window resized, array 2. So we've got an extra window resized event listener. Okay, and now we should actually be able to drill down and see exactly what that listener is. So if we expand this map entry, we can see the key is window resize. The value is an array, 2-element array of objects. And there it is, nav meter. That's really annoying. So the bug we just fixed with our nav meter just introduced an event listener leak. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you break everything. You fix a bug, 10 more take that bug's place. That's how it works. Okay, so I don't get why that would have happened from what we did, but that's how every bug works. You never know. You always say that bug shouldn't be there. That shouldn't happen. There shouldn't be any bugs, but there are. Show your PC specs. Pray. I have the PC specs down in the in my about section there. I don't. I can't even launch my game without the window crashing. I got you, Matt Jax. I've got a Ryzen 3900X. I have a RTX 2080 Ti. I have a whole smattering of SSDs. I have, let's open Task Manager, huh? Yeah, so we're running the old AMD. I almost said R9, but that's the GPUs. Ryzen 9 3900X. A lot of cores. What do we got? 32 gigs of memory. This one, what are each of these SSDs? Crucial 512, MX100. That's an old one. That's an old one for my old machine there. Samsung 840 Pro. That's an old one. Neon's Dev is now following. Neon's Dev. Neon. Thank you very much for the follow. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. You know that? My J drive. This is a newer one. This is a 1 terabyte Crucial MX500. The Sabrent Rocket 4.0, which is one of the first PCI 4.0 SSDs out there. 1 terabyte version. That was actually a pretty affordable drive there. And then my G drive is this ridiculous Intel SSD 6, I think. So this is an older one, but it's a 2 terabyte. I guess that's what that 2.0 terabyte is, right? Yeah, 1.92. And then we've got the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. That's card way too much money. I don't even want to think about that. That was not fun. Now with the RTX 3090 or 3080, could have more performance for half the price. I'm so sad now how my PC's 4 gigs and i5 first generation. Hey, no worries. There's nothing crazy going on. Your PC is a dream. It is a bit of a dream. I mean, I'm very glad I could own a PC like this. I'm very thankful. So, but i5 first generation, that goes back. My laptop, I do have a 2nd gen i7 in my laptop, which is now almost 10 years old. So, but no, I got you. Roivo. 4 gigs. Yeah, I would say you gotta go 8 gigs. You gotta go 8 gigs at least these days. But I'm from Brazil. Gotcha. Nice, nice. Ruivo. Yeah, your name. Yeah, I kind of thought maybe that from your name there. That seems kind of Portuguese or something like that. Did I say that? Is that wrong? Should I have said Brazilian for the name there? My name is like a redhead. Nice, nice. Really messed up my MacBook that I got over a year ago. Sucked up so much my dog's hair that it stalled and the entire thing. The entire thing fried. Lost all my finals projects on the board because the memory was soldered on. Really could have learned it back. Ooh, yeah. That's rough. I gotcha. I have 16 gigs RAM. Wish I had 32 as well. Max. Yeah, I feel like I was getting close to 16 gigs in certain cases. I can't even remember why I got 32 with this machine. I mean, RAM's cheap now. You know, I mean, cheaper and cheaper all the time. But 16, I feel like me personally, I wouldn't want to go below 16 at all nowadays for like a gaming machine or something. But yeah, 32 I feel kind of is like I don't know, I feel like you can kind of get close. I do audio, or I do music production and everything too. And I use Pro Tools, that little program there, and that thing likes to I like to not, that thing gives you enough problems as it is, and you don't want your machine to be the thing giving you even more problems with that software. So yes. We keep adding services with Docker at work, so having them running starts. Yeah, I hear you. Web apps, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, like what am I using right now? I mean, I just kind of like, I don't know. I like having more RAM than I would really need, you know, in most cases. Yeah, 10.5 gigs, just kind of chilling for the most part. Wow, I guess OBS is what's kicking the graphics card up to 40% here. Is it doing some GPU decode or something? Or encode? Oh, yeah, right there. Video encode. Ha ha! 3D also 32%. That's kind of weird. These must be related somehow. Dedicated GPU. That's a lot of VRAM. Yeah. Yes. So okay, so we tracked down what that listener was, what that leaky listener was. We're looking at it. We're staring at it in the face right now. 2, window resize. Nav meters, window resize method is not going away. How on earth could that not go away? Because it was going away before. All right, hang on. I got to use the bathroom real quick. We'll be right back. Wait, Matt Jacks, I really need to close things running, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I got to go. We'll be right back. Dropping the, yep, Codeco's got me there. Durana BRB toilets right there. All right, we'll be right back in a sec. All right, we are back. Magix, I really need to close things. Close things running. I'm using 13 gigs of my 16. Wow, that's quite a bit. I think that could be why my game is running, failing to run, whatever. Isn't running. That's what you were trying to say. I'm on 14. I don't even have Docker containers running. Whew. Actually, I did have Docker running. Nice. Yeah. I found myself on my last machine, which I built this machine a year ago now. Actually, over more than a year ago now. I think it was August. So it's already old. This thing's already pretty old now. They just go in the background and eat your RAM. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my last machine I had 16 gigs, and yeah, you really feel web development stuff. You can really feel 16 gigs pretty quick. I mean you can really feel the limit. So that was kind of my thought with this, was like I want to just not feel my RAM limit at all. And games-wise, I mean, games, are always kind of getting more beefier, and a lot of games are suggesting 16 gigs and stuff now. Some might even be recommending like 32. What do you think about Nuxt.js? Nuxt.js. I don't think I've heard of that. I think, isn't there a Next.js? I am not really up to Nuxt.js, the intuitive Vue framework. Gotcha. I've never used Vue, so wouldn't really have an opinion on that. It's like Next, but it uses Vue. Gotcha. I don't even know what Next.js is. I just know I've heard of it. But yeah, I've never used Next or Vue. I've really only used React as far as like front-end frameworks go. But for this game is just my own basic engine. It's pretty much just all JavaScript. There's not really any HTML at all. And there's no individual CSS files. So it's all just vanilla JS pretty much. I just figured out my problem with it not running. I keep trying to update a null object, dereferencing that null pointer. That'll get you. Well, is that a thing in Java? Null pointers? Or just null references, null objects? 026 Johnson Eric. What's going on? What's going on, 026 Johnson Eric? He's throwing in a Pixel Bob object there. Kodako, we're migrating to Next at work. Seems pretty nice. Gotcha. I still don't know what it is. Next has something to do with... I'll just Google it quick. Next. So I Googled Nuxt. Next.js... It's an open source React front-end development web framework. I thought React was a framework. So there's a framework for a framework? Seriously? Next.js. I'm reading the whatever Google Wikipedia thing here that comes up when you Google Next.js. Next.js is an open source React front-end development web framework. Isn't React a front-end web development framework? So Next.js is a is a front end, React is a tiny library. Tiny. I was going to say, to me, React, I don't know. People talk about how React is amazing and fast, but I feel like React is actually slow, personally. I feel like people forget what fast means. Okay, so Next handles server-side rendering, static site generation, routing, and some other things. Oh, okay. Whereas React doesn't do anything like that. Oh, so what? Oh, the servers. Oh, okay. I think I got you a little more there. Okay. So it does stuff that React doesn't do. Basically, server-side rendering is the complicated part. Yeah, I understand that, because like that's kind of the point of React is not server-side rendering, right? I mean, that's kind of like the now JavaScript in browsers works well enough that you can kind of have you can kind of just have your JavaScript app front end thing run and it works and blah blah blah. And server-side rendering kind of undoes what makes React, right? I mean, kind of, or what makes it kind of that thing. I don't know. Something like that. Codeco will correct me, I'm sure. My misunderstandings of things, of the web world. All right, so we've got a leaky event listener. Remember, we've got a leaky event listener still. It's not going anywhere until we get rid of it. So we've got a window resized in our nav meter that's not getting destructed. I don't really know how that's possible, because we got rid of that thing. How is this not possible? How is this not going away? So we need to pull up our nav meter code, which we already still have open. So the window resize, here it is. We set that up in the nav meter when we call navmeter.init. Well, client-side rendering is not always nice. I still want to write React components because that's all I can do. 026 Johnson Eric, npm install Axios React Router DOM. I have used React Router, never used Axios. But Axios is like it's like something for doing like your Ajax kind of stuff or something, right? Or whatever. All right, so we set up an event listener here. And why doesn't it go away? Where it should be going away. This dot event listeners, here it is. Okay, so this dot update size and pose. Okay. So where's destruct? Where's destruct? What? What? How is that possible? That can't be possible. What I'm looking at right now is telling me we've always had this leak, but that's not possible. This, or wait a minute. No. Hang on. I'm confused. We're calling super.destruct, so we're good. We're destructing each nav bubble. So calling super.destruct is good enough for getting rid of this event listener. But why? It's failing somehow. Magidef is now following. Magidef, Thank you very much for the follow. Oh, and you're in the chat there. How to make it easier for me to understand people's code without getting bored. That's actually something I need to get better at myself, Magidef, is reading other people's code. And I'm trying to. I am trying to do a little bit of that. By getting bored, do you mean like do you mean like it's hard to like follow focus on everything, that like you kind of get distracted, you know, it's like easy to kind of like, or bored, do you mean literally you just get bored, like, so I don't know if I'm exactly following what you mean by bored or what's causing you to be bored. Anxiety. Oh. Well, I guess, like, so reading someone else's code's making you afraid of not being able to understand the intention of the project. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like well, I'm easy with my own code. Right. Because it's all in your head. What you're doing is all in your head. And I've only ever, like, professionally looked at one other big project where I did not have the programmer available to actually talk me through it. And I had to kind of figure out what was going on. And basically it needed to be completely just scrapped for the most part, except there were a couple components that needed to be kept. And it just, for me in that case, I understand what you mean. Like, it's hard to kind of follow everything, but I would assume practice is kind of like the important thing. I don't know. Maybe someone else in the chat's got some more experience with reading other people's code. I wish I had more. In the cases where I've had to read other people's code for like work and stuff, it's been usually easier because currently my day job, I just work with another programmer, so we can usually just ask each other questions about stuff and that sort of thing. To be honest, I've never tried hard for it. Gotcha. I feel like we all just love hating on other people's code, especially if the writer's not around. Yes, and actually I noticed this because usually the context is because we have to maintain it. Yeah, that's a good point, Kodako. And what you last said there, we all just love hating on other people's code. I was going to say, I find myself, if I go back and look at some code, from maybe like an older project that I haven't touched in months, I tend to look at it and then go, oh, that was stupid of me to do that. I'm an idiot for doing that. And then I might change it or something, and then the whole thing breaks, right? Because it's like, oh, there actually was a reason why I did that. You know, it's like, because you just look at it real quick and you go, that's stupid. But really, like, there's a whole other reason, dependency chain of why that thing is like that, you know? It's like really easy to like get out and just look in at this one little piece and say, that looks dumb. And then really it's important how it is. It might make you have explosive diarrhea, Magidef. I concur with that. 0216. Johnson Eric. What is this? But yeah, I've been trying to read more. Whoops. I've been trying to read more. Because I've been trying to learn C, and I've been trying to kind of follow some open source projects with that and just try to kind of get a better idea of how to write good C code and kind of follow things like that. Because yeah, obviously, like when you follow tutorials and stuff, you only get so much of an idea. You know, you get that little snippet of like, here's this little thing, done. But like when you're talking about more like bigger architectural things, it's harder to obviously pick up good ideas and that sort of thing from that. So I've been trying to kind of follow some other little projects in C that or not little projects, but big things, just to kind of get an idea of what people are doing, how they're doing stuff, and people that not just random projects, but people that I tend to know a little bit of their background and understand that and I understand that they're good at what they do. They're good C programmers. I'm not just looking at garbage stuff. So my next game, I'd like it to be in C, a native program. That would be great. But we should probably get some multiplayer out live. Yeah, for anyone new, I'll just plug the game here real quick. I'm working on my game. It's called Populus. You can play it right now, populus.gg. It's a browser game. It's stupid, it's simple. It's like for kindergartners. Well, not really for kindergartners, but my wife did tell me, like, when I was 5, I would have liked playing this game. She meant it as like a compliment, but because she was like, when I was 5, I probably would have played this for hours. But I was kind of like, is that really a compliment? Like, but anyway. Yeah, so my game's called Populus. You pop bubbles. Got maybe some new viewers here that haven't been around here before, so I'll go to the live site right now. Here we are, populus.gg. Not secure. Yeah, I know. Don't worry about it. No HTTPS at the moment. We might figure that out at some point. But yeah, you can play. There's some bubbles that pop up on the screen. You got to pop the bubbles in order that they appear here. So starting with this green one. So to pop a bubble, you move your mouse over it, you press the space bar or click while you're over the bubble, and you pop it. That's simple. And you just keep going. And you just see how fast you can go. You see kind of whatever. Just kind of, I'm pretty fast because I've been, developing this and popping a million bubbles to test things. But yeah, you go. You got 30 seconds. That little blue bar down there is ticking down, and that's your 30 seconds. And then when the game's done, you see how many bubbles you popped in 30 seconds, and that's pretty much it. So I'm working on multiplayer right now. Yeah, we're working on multiplayer, one-on-one, and I found I've been kind of doing it's Saturday today, right? Been going for. Wow, we've been almost going for 4 hours now. It's already almost 5 p.m. my time, Central Standard Time. So that's a little crazy. The afternoon has slipped by my fingers, slipped through my fingers. Yeah, I don't normally stream on Saturdays. I normally stream Mondays and Tuesdays. It's my typical stream schedule. Stream like 10, usually get started 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, stream for about 6, 7, 8 hours maybe on Mondays and Tuesdays. So a Saturday stream, I haven't done a Saturday stream in a while, but usually I just do shorter streams on Saturdays, and if I do a stream on Saturday. And I've been trying to do Thursday night streams. Didn't do one this past Thursday night. But I had some time today to do a stream. But yeah, that's basically it. Oh, and I've got a Discord as well, if anyone's interested. So there's like some stuff there. There's a little Populus section for the Discord's relatively new. It's not a huge community there yet, but I say yet, I don't know. People might not join. There's a few people on there, so you can join if you want. I I'd like to kind of have that as a little place to kind of have discussion programming, game programming discussions and everything. I need to do a little better at stimulating discourse on Discord, but yeah, that's there. If anyone's interested, you can check it out. I usually put notifications in there when I go live for streaming and any other kinds of things. I have like a little version update thing for the public version of Populus. Why can't a change log? Is that what I'm trying to say? Change log? I don't know, something like that. So we've got a leaky event listener. Now we're jumping right back into whatever it was we were doing before, which is this event listener leak. And I'm a little perturbed about how this is not unlistening. Because like our nav meter destruct is working. Like we're calling destruct. Or destruct is getting called because all the nav bubbles are going away. Target, but that's kind of a weird thing. Hey, hang on one sec here. All right. Okay. We are back. Yeah, my wife just got home from work, so I kind of lost track of the time. We've been going for, what, 3 hours, 45 minutes? Whew. That's nice. So I'm going to I kind of just gave a little outro thing there just with my time, with the stream time, stream schedule and everything. So I think we're pretty much good to close the stream down. Yeah, we'll be back on Monday. So 2 days from now, be back with a normal stream, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Yeah, I was thinking of maybe doing a raid, but I kind of am going to kill the stream quick here, and it takes a while for me to always find somebody to raid. So, yes. So, yeah, we'll be back on Monday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Kodako, cheers. Cheers. Thanks again, Kodako, for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. Thanks for the follows. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. So, yeah, we'll see you back here Monday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So, adios for now.